I don't see Member Graham here yet, but I would just start, Madam Chair, with your permission, just to go through some quick question and answers, and then of course I will do the same for some issues that Member Paulwell raised, and then of course we can get into the flow. So in relation to the questions posed by Member Graham are specific to the Universal Service Fund. Very short and easy to answer. So how many community Wi-Fi sites will be allocated with each constituency for the year 22-23? And the answer to that is one additional community Wi-Fi site will be provided in financial year 22-23 per constituency, increasing the number per constituency to 4 by the end of 2022-23. You members will recall that each member of parliament got 3 in the previous financial year, and I'm pleased to indicate that all 189 community Wi-Fi's hotspots are up and running. They may not have been launched as yet, but they are completed in terms of the contractual arrangement. How was the selection of the sites done? What method of elimination was used? Site selection was based, number 1, on recommendation from the members of parliament, and number 2, USF's evaluation based on site visit, and 3, SDC's parish profile. Who will be responsible for maintaining these sites? What happens if an access point goes down? The USF will monitor and manage the hotspots facilities and utilize contractors to effect any repairs that may arise. How will the USF be able to sustain all the payments to the internet service providers? The government of Jamaica will seek to negotiate the cost of broadband internet services downwards with the ISPs so that the cost to cover the entire island is more accessible and affordable. Additionally, the USF is supporting the National Broadband Initiative with the funding of approximately $1.24 billion. And it is expected that the sites will migrate to the National Broadband Initiative, reducing internet bills. What mechanism will be used to monitor the service delivery post-implementation to the ROI? Monitoring of usage pattern, number of users, hours of utilization, and traffic type, as well as monitoring site status against service legal agreements utilizing an electric platform. What criteria is used to identify the most suitable locations in the constituency? Response, we look at high traffic areas, infrastructure, proximity to government institutions, post offices, libraries, police stations, courts, etc. Will there be consultations with the community stakeholders before implementation? Yes. The initial visit with the MPs includes stakeholder engagement with community members. How is the matter of foreign exchange gains and losses treated? No budgetary provision is made for foreign exchange gain or loss, except when we record the actual impact of same during the financial year. Budgeting for foreign exchange gain or loss will be based on speculation, which is not the ideal practice for the fund. Furthermore, the fund does not do currency forecasting or hedging. How does the fund plan to deal with the decline in revenue? The USF has explored the engagement of a consultant to review the levy revenue and make recommendations to improve it. We're also seeking partnerships to monetize current Wi-Fi sites. Based on research, the USF will be exploring the option of submitting a recommendation to the government of implementing a possible 1.5% to 3% tax on ISF revenue as obtained in other jurisdictions. And finally, is the completion of same on track in terms of community Wi-Fi projects. And as I said before, 189 sites are established online and the other 63 sites by March 31st, 2023. And just to indicate that the procurement for that is far advanced, so we should have no delays or issues as we are ahead of the game in that. Is the quality of service, especially in the rural areas, Wi-Fi sites acceptable? Quality of service across the board is within acceptable standards. And is there an intention to increase the number of Wi-Fi access points? And the answer to that is yes. For 23-24, an additional 63 sites will be established and also five community Wi-Fi projects. So those were the questions from the member Paulwell. Would you like to pose? Oh, sorry. Welcome, Member Graham. Those were the responses to your questions. I'm happy that you are here, so early in the morning, especially, and hope that you'll remain here through the day.
Good morning, everyone. Minister, thank you for that warm welcome. And I'm sorry to be late. I might have missed I'm sure I missed some of your presentation.
I have a copy of it for you.
Okay, thank you. But I know we've been, and I've heard you talking about Starlink and so on, and the ability to access some areas. I think you have some areas like Coopers and areas that are difficult to have fiber because it's probably not economically viable for the telecoms. But this is probably a good way of getting into those areas. And I have some of those areas like Wonder Bowlers, Ty Dixon, that I always speak about with my minister and my friend, and places like Top Hill. So I'm not sure about the conversations between the government and the entity to see if how we could solve some of those issues of hard to reach areas.
So the introduction of Starlink obviously has given great accessibility to areas that are not currently served or underserved. It is a private entity. We have reached out to them. They have obviously, as a new startup, been having their issues in terms of rolling out, etc. But the intention is to have dialogue with them to see how we can partner with them to try and see if we can cover some of these areas. It wouldn't be the first time because the Ministry of Education did utilize satellite coverage during the pandemic through local provider, which worked out very well. As a matter of fact, one of the pilots was in my constituency up in the Buff Bay Valley, which is very challenging, and it had no issue. So that has to be definitively this discussion with Starlink in short order to see how we can partner. And I know that USF has already been in touch with them. It's a matter of how and what we can arrive at in terms of an agreement in principle to identify. We know the areas. Obviously, USF is very au fait with that. So, yes, the answer to your question is that that has to be a part of the plan in terms of getting coverage for the better coverage for the entire country while we do the National Broadband Initiative. And I might just say, in relation to that Cabinet has approved the National Broadband Initiative as a designated national designated plan to come to Parliament, and that will allow for us now to conclude negotiations with the IFC in relation to the model that we will use in relation to the procurement, which will come thereafter. So I would expect it to come to Parliament in short order. It's with the Ministry of Finance now, and after that we should be in a position to get moving, as we have been. The procurement guidelines has kept us going for the last 8 to 12 months. But we're over that now. We've got Cabinet approval, so it's now for the Ministry of Finance to bring it here through the CPC, and then, of course, from there we can start final negotiations with the IFC.
Chairman, I'd like to pursue some questions in relation to the ICT component of the ministry. Firstly, Minister, last year you had announced a new player to enter the telecoms market. As you know, we inside this house, we support competition. And it is clear to many of us that the service that we receive, and just to be frank, it's not up to par in so many cases. And in some instances, poor. And there are two solutions to that: the regulator, the OUR, and competition. I'm disappointed that the company that a license was awarded to, I haven't seen or heard anything of them. So perhaps you could comment on that. And I know that you don't direct the OUR, but it would be useful to hear what measures are being put in place to maintain high quality standards, bearing in mind, Minister, that you have the ultimate authority because you issue the license and you can revoke licenses. And one of the things that I know is included in the licenses is the fact that if the companies don't cover 90% of the country with high quality service, and at this stage I think we're 3G plus, you have the authority to revoke the license. So perhaps you could comment on that.
So I would say two things that I'm in full agreement with you in relation to your dissatisfaction with the level of service. And I think that goes across the board. We have been in discussion with OUR from the ministry. We have indicated to them our dissatisfaction in relation to the service. And of course, they have indicated to us that they are monitoring the situation. And I know from time to time they have discussions with the telecom providers. But as you know, as you said before, it's an independent regulator. And therefore you have to keep your distance in terms of making sure that you don't overstep your boundaries. Those discussions continue, and the bottom line is that we commit to keeping the pressure on from the ministry side to get service up to standard or a better standard. As far as Rock Mobile, there are specific requirements in the license. I have met with them from time to time. Recently, I met with the CEO to get an update, and there's no two ways about it based on the COVID and all that has happened. There has been supply chain issues, etc., but they have committed to me that they are on track to roll out within the timelines, and they did get somewhat of an extension during the pandemic. When is the new timeline to roll out? Rock Mobile. So I'm being informed, member, that the last update that we have is that they are on track in relation to the new timelines, and they have started the rollout. But I will get a better brief for you in relation to the third provider, which is Rock Mobile.
Yeah. Minister, I just want to, I have three more questions and I'll just put them on the table for you to respond to. Firstly, have they paid the license fee that was announced for them to receive the license? Secondly, we are aware of some changes taking place at Digicel. We are told this week that their directorate will be undergoing some changes. Now, you as minister who issued the license, sorry, it wasn't you, it was me. Smile, no man. It's one of the legacies. You have a responsibility to know who the persons are to whom a license is issued. So you have a stake in understanding what is happening at Digicel. Digicel is a Jamaican company. We made Digicel. So, and in fact, we exported Digicel. Digicel is a multinational company. born in Jamaica. And I would like to understand, but I'd like to know if you're aware of what is happening, because the news is that, especially in relation to the main principal, those shares are now whittled down to almost nothing, and that others very soon will be in charge. And so you have to be clear on the due diligence that you will have to do to continue with the license. And finally, the third question has to do with 5G. Where is Jamaica? We were leading the world in terms of the technologies that we had access to. CDMA, TDMA, and so my brain is going, but the one that Digicel entered Jamaica with. Today, we are very slow in getting on board with 5G. It is the future. It is where I believe it is the ultimate, especially when we talk about the Internet of Things. What? Oh, I hear them talking about 6G now. Well, I want to hear about 5G. So many say you could just surprise us on that.
Thank you, member. So just to follow up in relation to Rock Mobile. So they are rolling out according to their spectrum license. The quality of service rules are being finalized, and they should be ready by the end of March 2023. Somebody was paid.
Yes,
Eh? They paid a lump sum and are paying equal installments. You have the figures? I'll supply you the figures. But yes, and that was that arrangement was made not only for them, but during the pandemic, there was a relaxation in terms of the requirement to pay everything up front based on the fact that they would need capital to roll out more infrastructure. So that was a policy decision. In relation to Digicel, I can tell you that I have not been contacted or informed officially as minister. So basically, I got a telephone call during the week before the announcement came out to say that announcement would come out. I have not received anything formal, but based on what I read in the papers this morning in relation to the fact that a significant part of it, of the shares, will be transferred, then of course it is my duty to make sure to do the due diligence, to make sure the fit and proper, etc. So when I leave here today, if I don't hear from them, by the time I get back to office, then I will have to make that call and summon a meeting to get a full understanding of exactly what has transpired and what the new structure of the company is. Finally, in relation to 5G, we, in terms of the SMA, are ready and available to support 5G. We have already started to work on developing the policy, but what I can say to you is that in speaking to the telecom providers, they don't seem to be in any haste or rush to roll out 5G. So that is, and they do claim that there's still so much more that they have to do in terms of the 3G and 4G. So that is a discussion that will be ongoing. But I take your point in terms of the fact that we need to stay current in terms of the best technology and most efficient technology available. But again, with the pandemic and all that has happened, obviously everything has kind of slowed down in terms of plans by companies, especially telecom providers. But yes, I will follow that discussion and keep you abreast of it.
Minister, this is more...
Sorry, just to say, you asked a question about the spectrum. So they did pay $7.5 million as a lump sum.
Okay. Minister, this is more of a, through you, Madam Chair, probably a suggestion more than a question. Since you're going to talk to the telecoms, more deliberate strategy to roll out the mobile Wi-Fi hotspots, so in transportation. So just to give more access. So you have the school persons who will call schoolers. We have persons traveling in tour buses, taxis, whatever. And private cars. So as you know, most of the new cars come now with Wi-Fi access. So I haven't heard much about it, but since you're going to have dialogue with the telecoms to find out where they are in terms of promoting and supporting and rolling out that, if you want to call it mobile hotspots.
I would have read recently that the Montego Bay bus service had launched Wi-Fi service. I know JUTC has had several proposals, and at one time did a pilot project in terms of Wi-Fi on the JUTC buses. But you're right. I mean, the fact of the matter is that's the future, and people want to be able to be in contact wherever they are. So that's a discussion that I will also have with the telecom providers, and of course the USF.
Minister, just so I listened to your response on the question of 5G from Member Paulwell. So my understanding is that the enabling regulations are being tracked now.
Sure.
Are they finished? Are they being tracked?
Sure. So we have spectrum available to facilitate the rollout of 5G. The policy and the regulations obviously are ongoing, and most importantly, obviously, is the willingness of the telecom providers to invest and introduce 5G service in the country.
No, I get that part. I mean, but if the enabling regulation, if the ecosystem is ready.
Not completed, no.
Okay, so you have a timeline that you're working on, because obviously I don't think the chicken and egg is not the investment first.
Right.
So obviously the ecosystem.
What's the timeline for the policy development? Right, I'll check with the SMA, but I'll take your point, and I realize that you're correct. So we'd have to put that on fast track,
right,
so that when they are ready,
correct,
it's not a situation that they are held up because there's no policy and regulations.
And I ask that because I'm aware that they will have opportunities to roll it out. So we need to get the regulations in place.
Well, point well taken, member. And as a matter of fact, I will give instructions for that to be put on fast track.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that deals with the ICTD. Member Paulwell, you had posed some questions. You want to just repeat them, or you want me to just?
Madam Chairman, you might think this is strange, but there has been this practice over the last 2 or so years. And before that, Madam Chairman, I'd just like to note, and I saw when the Minister of Education came in and greeted the team, and I am very happy to see the settling down of this ministry. And
oh, sorry.
no, but because
I thought that was in Parliament. Sorry.
You know, Madam Chairman, when things are swirling in a ministry, when there are controversies and scandals, sometimes people believe that it's only the minister that is affected, but the staff themselves become deeply affected. They have to be. And I want today to pay tribute to the staff, and in particular, the leadership, who is the permanent secretary, really, for ensuring that the ministry is stable. And you have some very fine people who are there. And I really want to commend the stability in a ministry that I have such high regard for. And also, to give the minister his due, unlike some of our colleagues here, we find that, well, certainly me, when I send him a question about an issue, and we don't agree on most of them, but I get a response, and I think that is commendable. As also the continuation of the Energy Council that I had established, but which has served a useful purpose in that it brings all of us together, the former minister as well, to look at issues and to deal with them before they become major controversies. So I am saying all those things before I get to the other issues. I've asked the minister some questions, and as usual, I think he has responded. And perhaps for the record, he should read, well, you look like you have 10 pages. That was not my intention. But if you could just give us the gist of the answers, because there are a few follow-up that I'd like to do.
Thank you. Thank you, Member Paulwell. And just to say that I appreciate your comments, and it is not by chance, but by design that this ministry, thankfully, since I took over in 2020, has not been highlighted in the news for anything other than positive things that have happened. Oh, absolutely. She started, my colleague, I call her my joint minister. But the truth is that it has been not an easy task, but with the dedication of the staff and specifically the chairman of the boards and the board members that were selected not on anything other than their credentials, not party colors, not friendships, strictly on their credentials. And I think that has helped tremendously the ministry as well. And I only hope that we can continue on this trajectory, best practices. So thank you very much for those kind words. Member, I don't have your question specific.
All right, let me get to the main.
So it will be easier if I have it in the body of the comment of the brief that I have here. So right. If you just fire them, we'll take them one at a time.
Okay. I didn't put this to you, but this morning I got up and I was trying to find out what is the cost of electricity in Jamaica today. I'm sure the ministry would have that figure. I was horrified when a consumer said to me that we're above 42 cents. And Madam Chairman, I'm dealing strictly with the books. Once I'm done with these, we can proceed. But could you just indicate what is the price, well, for me, what is the price of electricity today?
I'm being told by the CTD that it's between 36 and 42 cents.
So you know how horrified I am, because when I started in 2002, it was 42 cents per kilowatt hour. And Minister, you're aware of my total disappointment in you and the ministry in the curtailment of that process we had started a year ago to examine the Electricity Act, because therein lies some of the answer to getting the price of electricity down. Having started at 42, we had come down to 20. Industry did a revolution. We transformed the use of fuel from heavy fuel oil and diesel to 60% liquefied natural gas, and others, renewables and so on. That process really hasn't been advanced further, and we really haven't seen the benefits of natural gas. So, Public Minister, we have heard recently about talks that the US has engineered in relation to the use of natural gas from Venezuela via Trinidad and Tobago. Could you say where are we with that initiative? Because Jamaica's name was mentioned as a beneficiary. And again, because of competition, it could, if we get additional gas supplies in the country, see to the lowering of the price that we pay for natural gas now.
So let me answer your last question first. Nothing has come to me or the ministry formally in relation to that announcement that was made.
Somebody called Jamaica's name and you're not aware?
Not aware. As a matter of fact, before I came here yesterday, I made inquiries with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, again, just to make sure, because they had told me a few weeks ago. I also contacted our ambassador in Washington, which is where that whole discussion started. And again, I was unable. I think I shared with you some of the updates that I had received. So it is something that I am tracking. But until this point, nothing has come formally through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or the Ministry of Science, Energy, and Technology, and by extension, no discussions or communication with Petrojam to this point. So we still are, despite that big announcement and article, we still are no further informed in relation to. So the next step.
Competition, where are we with the regulations, which was drafted in 2015, but we never saw
projects within constituencies?
Yeah. What I have instructed the SDF is that when members of parliament write requesting support for projects, that they should respond, they should go assess the projects and work out a costing, and then we would have it in the lineup for support. And as the saying goes, if you don't have a ticket, you don't have a chance. So it's usually the best thing to send in your request for projects. We will do the assessment, and then you'll be in the queue for support. So we have, for the 2023-24 fiscal year, we are looking at 23 projects across the island.
Well, I don't know that it makes sense for us to make too many requests, because you don't really have any money, Minister. Really need to be begging, ensuring that sport gets the kind of attention it deserves, and because it does more advertising for Jamaica than any advertising campaign that the Minister of Tourism can do. Yes, I will say that proudly.
We're at one.
And we're at one.
More funding is needed.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I will continue to advocate for more money. And in fact, I have been we have been very prudent in how we spend the money as well. You know, so where we can't do everything that is requested, we do things incrementally. But we try our best.
Because I'm not seeing an improvement in your budgetary. I'm not seeing an improvement in your budgetary allocation, right, from the end of managing our infrastructure projects, right? So we had commenced a project of upgrading sporting facilities in high school, primarily because we believe the high school bear the brunt of the training and development of our athletes. That's where it starts. If we're not able to give them the proper infrastructure in high school, what happens is that they start to learn bad habits from that level, right? Because they're not equipped to learn the right way, right? So you learn the wrong way, you continue to keep learning the wrong way and doing the wrong thing over and over again. So we had commenced a process of upgrading the sporting facilities in high schools across the island, and we chose them based on their rankings at the high school championships. We took some from the bottom, we took some from the top, so that we wouldn't seem to be discriminating against those who perform well or those who don't perform well. So we took from the top and the bottom. I believe the program has been discontinued, but I would like to know if there are intentions, because I'm not seeing anything in the budget for upgrading high school infrastructure. And Minister, I assure you that as a result of placing that track at Calabar, which is the first one of its kind in a high school, I believe it has made a significant difference. I think it's something that you'll probably want to continue, but I just want to know where you are with it.
We certainly, that program, which was funded through the sugar, right?
Partially funded through sugar.
Fully funded.
Partially.
But was implemented through the SDF, right? 22 projects have been completed. 22 projects have been completed, and the last project is a field at Grange Hill. The last project in the series of infrastructure program in the high schools, the last one is Grange Hill.
Right.
That is now being completed. But while that program was going on, SDF was, as a policy, doing other high schools.
Yes.
And we can provide the
right.
list
So
of
I was
high
saying
schools.
through the project, the 22 high schools were not all done through sugar transformation. Those high schools that related to sugar areas were included in the project, right? So some of what SDF was doing was in collaboration with the sugar transformation unit. So we could only justify using the sugar transformation funding for those schools which were in the sugar belt.
Well,
right?
what
So
I'm saying is there were
right?
about 16 of the 22 that were done through the sugar. Right.
So
and
it's
the
a
rest
combination.
were done through SDF, and SDF continues to do the high schools. That is a program that that we are committed to, and that will continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that is the simple answer.
Pardon?
That is the simple answer.
Yeah.
That you are committed to doing it and it's going forward.
Well, let's put it this way. That's, to me, it's a natural thing to do. It's not something that any administration can say, we are doing high schools and you are not. It's a natural thing for us to do the high schools. That's where we draw on our talent. So prior to the program that you had implemented, high schools were being done. And when you came in as minister, the sugar industry program came in, the sugar, the support through the Ministry of Agriculture came in, and so 16.
Right. We made the request of sugar.
Continues.
Right. All right. So I want to move on.
We must ensure.
Okay.
We must ensure that we provide the infrastructure at the high school level, and not just at high school level, but at the primary school level and at the basic school level in developing the sporting prowess of our young people.
Thank you for your answer, Minister. I'll move on. There was an established advisory board, the Sport Council. Is that still in effect? Does it still meet?
No, the Sports Council is not functioning at this time. It's put on hold because there are other entities, there are boards. It's just another layer on top of layers. So at this particular time, it's not, because the Sports Council, the way it was structured, it was chaired by the Prime Minister, and ministers of government were required to be on it. Permanent secretaries were required to be on the council. But in fact, the council was just an upper layer on top of existing boards that were responsible for the various sporting bodies in the public sector. So with the restructuring, which is taking place at this time, there will be a streamlining of the public sector entities that are responsible for sports. Currently, we have Institute of Sports, we have the Sports Development Foundation, we have JADCO, which is an independent entity, and and we have Independent Spark Limited, which is responsible for infrastructure.
Right. Well, the council.
And then the ministry itself, the unit in the ministry has been upgraded to be a ministry that deals with policy and monitoring. And of course, we work with the over 40 sporting bodies.
It's a simple question, Minister. Are we now going to be abandoning the Sports Council?
We are restructuring and streamlining.
And in the meantime, we have not continued.
The Sports Council is redundant at this time.
Okay.
Because there are bodies that are responsible directly for the sporting entities
the
that
advisory
exist.
body, as I understand it, was to have given oversight.
But there is oversight being given by the boards that are overseeing the sporting entities. And then there is the ministry that is more directly involved in monitoring. But if
we might
I
see
understand what you're saying, but I just want to
differently.
make this point. We tend to have, we set up entities, and on top of that, other entities, and on top of that, other entities. People come to meetings, they get honorarium for attending meetings. They come, they eat, they have lunch, or they have breakfast. And the work is not done, it's just talk shop. We need less talk shop and more bodies that can ensure that the entities for which they are responsible
I think
function.
the provision of oversight and transparency in the process, I wouldn't consider.
So are you saying the existing boards?
No, I'm not saying that, but there must have been a reason. And I can appreciate
and people weren't even attending meetings.
Why persons, well, I know the last
because
one.
They were,
the last
people,
one held
everybody is busy focusing on the things for which they have direct responsibility.
The last one held in 2016 actually had full attendance. And so I'm not saying that your experience might not have been different, but mine certainly was. And I'm simply saying that if it is your new way forward, then I'm understand. Just ask the question, right?
Well, let's put it this way. We are going through the process of transformation and streamlining, and want less talk and more action.
All right. Trelawny Stadium Minister, can you give me some update on where we are? I know we've been struggling through successive administrations. We have struggled with the facility at Trelawny. Can you provide me any? Yeah. Can you provide any update on where we are?
On Trelawny?
Trelawny.
All right. The Trelawny facility was an incomplete facility.
Yeah.
And as a result, it was limited in what could be done there. What we have been able to do, however, is to maintain the facility, have the facility constantly used by involving more local persons, like it's the home of the Trelawny Cricket Club, and it's being used for a number of events. As we speak, it is being renovated for the use of a major inter-American camporee hosted by the Seventh-day Adventist Church. We expect over 12,000 young people camping on the site for 5 days. And in addition to the camping facilities, there will be about 1,000 rooms being occupied by persons who are coming in for this event.
Are there any plans to put anything there that will allow for Trelawny to get to a stage of being able to maintain and sustain itself?
Yes, I read it. Yeah. All right. So, in the meantime, what we have done is to put together a proposal which was approved by, the concept was approved by PIMSEC. And the Ministry of Finance and the PIMSEC, the committee, has recommended that the DBJ work with us to put together a package for public-private partnership in developing the facility. We have a very, very, I would say, great design for the facility, and we are currently looking for private partners to develop the facility and to have it being at the center of sports tourism. I was there last week.
I hope that happens for you.
Pardon?
I hope that happens for all our sake, yeah? Because it's a difficult one to carry on the books without having that going forward.
Yeah.
I know you had
so the
announced some plans.
The DBJ and us, we are working together to put together the package.
You're seeking to find a partner, right? That's what I'm understanding. You're seeking to find a partner.
Yes, in fact, we have at least 3 entities from overseas that have reached out to us. But of course, we are not just looking for overseas partners. We're looking for, and once the DBJ has put together the proposal, it will go out to tender.
The National Stadium.
Yes.
I know that Major Brown still is fighting to get more money because you don't want to do a lot there. For this fiscal year, what are we intending to do at the stadium to improve? Let me tell you the good news about the National Stadium. Please, tell us the good news.
The good news about the National Stadium is that, you know, it's a legacy project. We have gone through all the processes with PIMSEC. And we are at the point where the Minister of Finance has made a commitment that he will pay for a consultant to move it to the next stage. We are looking at the development of the facility over a 3 to 4 year period in stages. We will be taking out the cycle track, putting in an additional 10,000 seats. The entire stadium will be partially covered.
So for this fiscal year, what you're looking at here is the hiring of a consultant.
What you will find is that right, so we're working on finishing the final design this year.
And that is going to be found in the...
No, you will not find it here.
No, I'm asking you, in the budget of the Ministry of Finance. Is that I'm asking?
Yes, yes,
and
that is where it is.
Can you say what that amount is for what the costing is for providing that consultant to look at the new design?
That will come out of, one, when we come up with the final design and when we have further discussions with the Minister of Finance, who has indicated that he will personally sit with us to work it through.
So who is engaged now in doing the design? Because you're saying the final design. So the design must be taking place now.
We haven't selected the person as yet. That is a process that we have to go through. What we have engaged,
I'm a little confused.
We have engaged certain missions here, for them to assist us in finding the skills and the expertise.
So we haven't started the design process yet?
We have a concept. Yes, we have a concept.
Okay.
But we now have to fine-tune the design. And we now need persons...
You have a concept of what you'd like to see, but you're now going to be hiring someone to...
Member, that is among the list of projects that we're going to be sitting with the Minister of Finance to move it forward. We have done from the ministry as much as we. You must understand here.
Sorry, you want 18 more years? It's coming soon, still. It's coming.
Madam Chairman, what's going on?
Member, let me just elaborate a little on something here. we are known to do things and then we have not.
Madam Speaker, I'm unable to hear the minister's response. The Minister of Local Government is disrupting the proceedings.
All right, I'm going to give you an update on it, a member, based on the details I've been provided with. But I just want to say it within this context, however. There's a whole new approach for capital projects. The Ministry of Finance and the Minister of Finance specifically has indicated that the Ministry of Finance will not fund projects unless they are confident about the sustainability. And so there's a process that we have to go through. I will confess that I myself get so concerned about the time it takes. But I've seen projects, infrastructure things, like SDF spends a lot of money doing fields and facilities, and then there is no maintenance in it. So, although we all want to see things happen real fast,
Depends on the value of the project.
Minister, I want
to be allowed to finish.
I know.
I'm asking a question, I want to be allowed to finish.
All right.
And what I'm saying is this. We all may be impatient about how long things take, but we must recognize the fact that you can build something and then you have not put in the plan to sustain it and to maintain it. And that is why we are being asked to do certain things. Now, let me give you the update on the National Sports Museum. Right? Project details is, the project details, it's roughly estimated on concept drawings only, it will cost us $8 million for construction only. Construction only, $8 million US, just for construction, all right? The status of the project, design concept meeting, all the brief guidelines was completed in May 2020. The design concept for the National Sports Museum has been approved by the ministry, and there is actually a design that is available for persons to view. The terms of reference for both the structural and mechanical and electrical engineers have been compiled. These engineers are pivotal in providing structural, electrical, and plumbing drawings for approval. A quantity survey is also needed to calculate in detail the cost of the project from start to finish. A terms of reference was also done, and a few contenders submitted proposals. The project will also require an interior design team with knowledge and experience in curating interactive gallery spaces so as best to properly display all artifacts available and generate more if needs be. We have actually been collecting artifacts. There have been 3 proposals submitted from international companies with museum design experience. The National Works Agency has reviewed the concept design and has expressed that the design is in alignment with the proposed roadworks to be done on Arthur Wint Drive, because you know they're widening the road there. Now, we are proposing a wax museum in the meantime, which we will be able to fast track while we further develop this sports museum. So the next steps, retain professionals required to carry out the following: structural engineer, mechanical and electrical engineer, quantity surveyor, interior designer, curator, project manager. Finish construction drawings, get building approvals from the Fire Department, NWA, KSAMC, NEPA, and NWC. finish interior drawings, and send out tender documents for contractor.
I actually, thank you for the update, Minister, and I actually want to propose to you today that I think this is a fine project for the Tourism Enhancement Fund to give its full support. Jamaican athletes have done enough for Jamaica to allow for us to display what their successes have been and what it has brought to our country. This one, I think, should not have any further delay. It has been 8 years, and I really think that though it is not completely in your hands, I believe the government needs to move with some alacrity on ensuring that we are able to capitalize on this business of sport. This is how we're going to own our brand. We have done so well, but others have been using our brand to beat us and to make money off of us. So I just want to commend to you that today I am pleading on behalf of Jamaica. And Minister, you are sitting in the seat, and on your behalf as well, that the government gives this project the kind of support that it is deserving of to have this done in the shortest possible time. We actually had done quite some work it doesn't matter how much money. So you can go back. No, let's just say this. Minister Grange and I, over time, we have acknowledged and come to a place that sport is not politics. And we're not playing any sport with any politics with the sport. Because the athletes, when they need our support, are not doing it on political grounds. So the idea of asking these questions and to ask for the support of government is from whichever government, because I had to push as well to get funding in the first place to commence the project. So it's not a political thing or which government is here at this time. Jamaica's sporting industry requires us to give it our best and our all.
Member, you're preaching to the converted. You and I share the same passion and the same vision. And me and my team, we have worked very hard to take it to this point. But as you know, it's not totally in the control of the ministry, but we, you must remember too, everybody.
Hence my appeal, Minister, I can move on.
Hold a moment.
Yeah.
I just want to underscore to members here and to Jamaica. We went through a period called COVID. And so a lot of things that would have moved faster got delayed. We went to what? 2 years. And so everything is 2 years behind. We must recognize that. And in spite of that, I have been like a slave driver with my team to get things done. And I think it is no secret that we work hard to get things done.
All right. Thank you, Minister. All right. So my other question now relates to the fiasco at JADCO.
At where?
JADCO.
What?
The fiasco, which took... Allow me, no, please.
Member, let me just...
But you don't understand.
Just allow me to say...
No, don't do that. No, Madam Speaker, I'm asking... I haven't asked a question.
I'm going to listen to you.
I have not asked a question.
I just want to interject for a moment.
I am speaking about a particular event.
Member, allow me to interject. Just a moment. I'm going to listen to you. I just want to say something just before you go further. I want to say something here. Madam Chair, I want to say something here.
If our athletes cannot get the kind of response, and I am speaking to an event,
you and I communicate very well. Just allow me.
So you can't. If you don't consider that what which happened to our athletes to have been a fiasco.
Member, will you allow me to speak?
Members, please.
Allow me to speak.
Please, members.
This is not, we're not doing any one-upmanship in here. We're talking about Jamaica. And we're talking about civil servants who serve this country. And every time we want to play politics, no, just allow me. Just allow me to finish. I will listen to you. But I just want to say something here. Sometimes when we say things, we must remember we are talking about human beings. We're talking about people who are serving this country, people who are dedicated. And if something goes wrong, we're not going to cut off their neck and throw them in the
You
donkey.
haven't heard my
Just
question.
allow me.
No, Minister.
Allow
No,
me
Minister.
to
On a point
speak.
of order. Madam
Allow me-
Chairman.
No, you are out of order to talk about fiasco.
Madam Chairman, I have
Madam
not
Chair, will you please
imputed
rule? I want to
motive
finish
on
speaking.
anyone.
Now rule that both persons stop speaking. One moment. One moment.
I would like
please.
to say something, Madam Chair.
Has brought great
I cannot and I will not.
Jamaica's model of anti-doping is
Members.
recognized across the world so much that the
Madam Speaker,
Please.
may I?
Just a minute, Minister. I cannot and I will not speak unless we have.
Jamaica, because Jamaica is the regional leader in anti-doping.
Right. Now, was a question asked?
Madam Speaker, may I respond? Madam Speaker.
All right. The member.
Allow me, what am I speaking about? You don't even know what the question is that I'm going to ask. But I'm entitled to ask any question I want to ask. If I'm not entitled to ask a question, Minister, Madam Chairman, if I'm not entitled to ask a question, tell me I'm not entitled to as a member of this House.
All right.
May I?
The minister and the member of the opposition have the interest of Jamaica at heart. I was dealing with an urgent matter which came up with the Minister of Justice and I didn't hear. I understand that the member was asking a question but was not complete.
No.
Minister, just let her, and member, I did not hear.
Madam Speaker, may I explain my side?
No, you cannot explain without hearing the question, Minister. How you going to explain and you don't hear the question?
But I'm not going to allow you if you talk while she's talking and I am talking. I am saying to you now, I did not hear the conversation. Minister, the minister is in charge and here, so if you could just allow her to complete the question, and I'm listening now. We're looking at the budget. Complete the question as it relates to the budget, and Minister, you answer. Look at your budget and complete your question as it relates to the budget. Go ahead.
Madam Speaker, what I suggest is that we confine ourselves to what is. What the questions ought to be, under what heading and what page those questions relate to.
The member knows. Allow her to.
Madam Speaker, I never sought to. I am allowing myself to explain. A minister has explained. I am going to. You were while you were busy. She was doing so, and I'm saying to you, I need to clear.
I did not allow her to explain, and I just want you both to continue the way.
Yes, but I'm saying to you, if you are going to accuse, hold on,
please,
you can't accuse me of seeking to impute motive, and it is wrong because I did not seek to in any way. But the civil servants who serve with distinction across the ministries. If the minister suggests by me just using one word and not allowing me to ask the question, then you're allowing civil servants to believe that I'm sitting here discussing their reputations and seeking to pull them down. And that's not what I'm seeking to do. So I'm saying I'm now going to ask the question. If Minister listens, she will recognize that it wasn't about the civil servants, but about the process.
Withdraw the word fiasco.
But member, I object to the fact that you are going back to something.
Withdraw the word
chairman,
fiasco.
I have ruled that you ask the
Minister,
question.
okay, I'm asking the question.
And you shouldn't do that because the minister did not get that
In light of what took place at the stadium, when the athletes were denied their accolades because of the fiasco which took place as it relates to anti-doping. And I'm seeking to know now, based on the budgetary allocation here for JADCO, is it going to be sufficient to ensure that there's not a repeat of this fiasco?
I am already seated. What heading, what page?
I am not imputing any motives.
I'm going to tell your wife when I see her. I'm going to tell your wife.
Madam Speaker, I am normally the member and we have very good relations and we communicate very well.
We've invited her
and I am always open to her questions and so on. She started by making reference to a fiasco, and I objected to that. And I'm asking her to withdraw it because we're talking about people who are serving this country. And I think that, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, I am very sincere about it. It's about Jamaica. It's not about condemning people. Yes, something occurred. We admitted that there were issues that should have been treated differently. And we have taken corrective action. And I feel that because we're dealing with people who are committed to this country and to Jamaica, when we address these matters, we can handle it differently. That's all I'm saying.
Yes. And I will now say as the chairman of this meeting that in view of the fact that both the opposition person and the minister has said that the sports and our sports people are not a political thing, if it is that the minister and the ministry has admitted that a certain matter was treated in a particular way and that there is no need to repeat the use of the word fiasco. Because when you use the word fiasco, you are suggesting something that neither the opposition spokesperson nor the minister has ever brought into sports.
Right.
Well, Minister, thank you, Chair. And let me just indicate that those athletes who were affected would consider what took place.
It's an error.
And wait, let me just say though, an unfortunate fiasco.
I'm not going to allow you to do that. I resent the fact that you have done that. I member.
All right. Okay.
The fact that you have done that.
Madam Chair. All right.
And I ask you to withdraw that word.
All right. So, Madam Chair, the use of a word. No, but allow me now. Allow. It seems, Madam Chair, it seems like the F word is giving you a problem. All right, so let's use another word. I'm going to use another word. Let's let it start with the unfortunate. Oh, thank you for the, I'm going to find the right word. I'm going to find the right word. I'm looking for it.
Madam Speaker, maybe what the minister... let me help you.
This unfortunate disaster which took place.
Well, listen,
right.
maybe...
is that a better word, Minister?
No, don't answer. I'm going to answer you, Madam Opposition.
Give me another word. Give me one.
I'm going to tell you.
Yes, please.
I'm going to give you something of like manner.
Arrow?
You spoke this morning. Hold a minute. You spoke this morning.
I'm just asking you to give me the right word, madam.
I'm going to give you, allow me to speak as a chairman.
Okay.
You spoke this morning of what was happening to the Trelawny Stadium. I say so now as a member of parliament from part of Trelawny. It would be appropriate to say it was an unfortunate, what do we say, fiasco, disaster, decision of the government of the day to have built a facility. Nobody used that word this morning.
But we use many other words.
Millions of dollars that have sat in Trelawny
Madam
and
Chair.
successive governments. Don't let us go that route. You have never done it before. You are a responsible member, and you shouldn't allow anybody to help you to put disaster instead of fiasco. That makes a mockery of what we are doing.
Madam Chair, let me be clear. And if I have, hold on. If I have offended, no, Minister Grange and I do in fact have an awesome relationship, right? So it really, and it will continue after today. She not petty like that.
Just cool down.
But what took place there was really unfortunate, right? I won't use the word fiasco because it seems to rub you the wrong way. However, no, I'm sorry. I said I wouldn't use it. So what I would want the records to in fact record is that the unfortunate occurrence which took place, whether it is by error of omission or commission, I don't know. But I know that the people who continue to serve voluntarily are people of distinction. I know that. I have never questioned that. And I want that to be clear. I've never questioned it. Not when it happened and not now. I did not. At no point in time can anyone quote me anywhere as having brought down or said anything against the current board or its leadership or the team of persons who serve. I, however, believe we have a responsibility to ensure that this does not reoccur. And I want to know where we are. Minister Trelawny, you saying something?
All right, yes.
Okay.
All right, you want to know where we are?
Yes, just want to know where we are because if we keep doing the same things the same way, we're going to be mad people getting the same results. So I'm asking you what has changed.
I have the answer. Because we recognize that it was on a situation that occurred, and it was an error. But since that time, we have restored confidence in JADCO. And the presence of the head of the World Anti-Doping Agency being here in Jamaica, asking Jamaica to mobilize the region to be as successful as Jamaica in the anti-doping program speaks volume to how effective and efficient this agency has become. So the Jamaica Anti-Doping Commission began training in order to implement what is called the paperless anti-doping sample collection process in its quest to do the right thing going forward. This will improve the efficiency of the doping control program. The Commission also partnered with the Canadian Centre for Ethics in Sport for a 2-day working visit and training and commenced its ISO 9001 Quality Management System certification to meet international standards and enhance the protection of Jamaica's sporting image. The fact that the World Under-20 Girls 4x1 time set at the Character Games in April was not ratified by World Athletics was a huge disappointment for all Jamaicans, especially the athletes, and we apologize for that. The Commission's work to achieve ISO 9001 quality management certification means that all of JADCO's customers and stakeholders will receive consistent, good quality service in the execution of its programs. This will not happen again. This is especially important as the Commission continues to modernize and respond to the needs of its stakeholders, who are the athletes. Once certified, JADCO will join approximately 40 other anti-doping organizations that are ISO certified. The Commission will also be pursuing the establishment of a compliance monitoring division to ensure that the standards and processes are maintained and not revoked. We have taken care of the problem, and going forward, we will not have this reoccur.
Thank you, Minister. All right.
So we are one of 6 countries, national anti-doping organizations, that are so certified.
And it has been coming for a long time. We have been doing over years many work. A lot of work has gone into JADCO. I've had my own experiences as well, so I'm just thanking you. I just wanted an update. Thank you for the update. My final question relates to, and it's not a question, it's really a comment as it relates to the budgetary item as it, on the, and you made it in your opening remarks, so it prevents me from asking any further questions on the athletes' insurance policy, which was started some years ago. But I'm happy to see that you have now included the immediate overseas coverage, because in the first instance, it would have to be a claim after service. Does this Lloyd's of London coverage allow the athletes to present upon being seen by a physician, or is it that they have to pay out of pocket and then have to claim when they come back to Jamaica? What is the process?
They have to upfront the funds, advance the funds, and then they are reimbursed based on them submitting the bills. However, we have been able to assist in the process to alleviate that kind of pressure, because they may not be in a position to advance the funds. So, but officially through the insurance plan, the money is spent,
and
or the bill incurred, and then it's paid after.
So the funds from which you would draw down to assist an athlete who is not able to pay up front is the Athletes Welfare Fund?
Well, paying up front would be an emergency. Emergency only. So normally, if we know in advance, beforehand, where it's not an emergency, we assist in expediting the process, so they are able to. Yeah. And if it's an emergency, we find a way to assist if the funds don't exist. And that is, you know, in terms of the insurance coverage. And I don't know if I had indicated that under the insurance, that for consultations, we have increased the figure for consultation. We have increased the figure for prescriptions and major medicals, and that it now includes unlimited psychological, psychiatric services. It includes dietitian, podiatrist, chiropractor, massage therapy, athletic therapy, speech therapy. It also includes renal dialysis, radiotherapy and chemotherapy, artificial limbs, prosthetics, root canal, permanent crown.
So it has dentistry and has
women, maternity benefits, and we even cover miscarriage.
Right, that was there before. So
No,
I'm just asking,
no.
yeah, maternity benefits were there before.
No, it was
I won't
not.
argue, I won't
But,
argue.
I mean,
Minister,
I don't
it's not even
understand.
necessary. No, you said it was new, so I was just indicating to you.
I don't understand
No,
why.
no, you said it was
we
new.
are moving forward. We are
No,
not
you said
moving
it was
backward.
new, and I'm saying it was there before. So all I'm saying, I'm moving forward. I'm asking you, when you do assist the athletes overseas, that fund comes from a welfare fund? Does it come from the welfare fund? I'm almost done. It's my last.
Hold on. The expression on the faces of the men on either side tell the story. I'm asking, please, let us continue to move forward.
I'm finished. The question I really asked, which you haven't answered yet, Minister, is it that when you assist them overseas, it comes from the athlete wealth? That's all I asked, you know. Does it come from the athlete's welfare fund? That's all I asked.
No, it does not. That's a separate fund. From the athlete's welfare fund.
So where does it come from? That's all I'm seeking to find.
Out of the SDF, and those funds are, some emergencies are treated out of those funds, but where the athlete is covered by insurance, it's not necessary to take it from the welfare fund, and it's not necessary to advance it that way. We always find a way to work it with the athlete so that they are coverage, they get the coverage they need.
Oh, so you don't wish to disclose that way today?
I'm sorry?
All right. You don't wish to disclose that way today, because I was asking you.
Where it would come from?
Where it would come from. Okay.
Sometimes he will get credit from the facilities.
Okay.
The athlete's welfare fund is for those who do not have coverage.
Right.
But where they have coverage, we would rather to use the program that exists for them, rather than take it from funds that we would use to cover persons who have no coverage.
It was a question relating to, you said, where they are not able to upfront the amount.
And what I'm saying, where they're not able to upfront the amount, we work with them to facilitate
All right.
it.
Okay. Thank you, Minister.
Minister, on the airline item, Heritage Trust, perhaps you can update us on the proposal for Port Royal to be declared a heritage site.
Okay, now in relation to Port Royal, we have for a second time submitted the Port Royal dossier to UNESCO for inscription. And the difference between what we had presented before and what we have now submitted, the previous nomination included all the historic periods, 17th century, 18th century, and 19th century. We have now, and so it was deferred. So we, in reviewing it, we have now submitted the nomination to cover only the 17th century, which means that the earthquake which occurred in 1692, we ended up with a sunken city and some of that city on land and some underwater. So we have nominated only that area, the sunken city and what's left of it on land. And we just, a member of the JNHT actually went to Paris and handed in the nomination just a couple weeks ago. And we're awaiting their feedback. But just to and this is something that I'm sure you'll be happy to hear, that that the dossier submitted included heritage impact assessment, assessing the potential impact on the underwater archaeological remains from the cruise ships and its direct and indirect impact on the property. It also included a preservation plan to protect all sites of historic and archaeology significance within the protected National Heritage Site. And 3, a disaster risk plan to not only prepare the site to reduce the disaster risk, but to answer the emergencies and recuperate from any disaster. So the JNHC has also adjusted the boundaries of the site to include the 51 acres as its core and a buffer that provides protection for the 51 acres on land and underwater. Now, following this submission, the process will take another year of review, which includes visits by the evaluators to Port Royal for further clarification and discussions of the site before it is placed before the UNESCO World Heritage Committee, which comprised 21 members in 2024 for inscription. And I just want to also indicate that we got good support from several countries. We got support from the Netherlands, Mexico, Canada, Japan. And in fact, we got how many divers? We got 6 divers trained by them. So, including 4 women. So we now have 6 professional divers who dive underwater and check on the condition of the sunken city. And just like it went down,
it is still preserved.
It remains intact. Yeah. What they've been doing now is cleaning away some of the silt, just to clear it. Because what we hope to do eventually is not just have underwater diving as an attraction, but also we can see the underwater city sailing over it. So we have...
Gold.
Oh, and Fort James, which was previously covered, because of the earthquake in diving, they have been able to discover, right? Because they thought it was destroyed by the earthquake, but in fact it was not destroyed. In fact, we are considered the third most important such site in the world. And the countries that have been working with us on it, they have made several proposals to us how we can maximize this underwater city.
I wish you well. I wish you well, Minister. Don't forget that on your mission to France, you need to include a very strong advocate in the Member of Parliament.
Yes, I know that, and you should tell your colleagues that I consult you on whatever we are doing in Port Royal, and you are very much a part of it. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Minister, I suspect you know where I'm going with my questions. But I'll start with the football. So we know you have been making contributions to the Premier League Football Association. I'm a director.
That we have been making contributions.
Yes,
Will you say that again?
Louder. Yeah, but no, in relation to this budget, is there any contemplation to... We're grateful for whatever has been contributed thus far, but is there any contemplation in terms of a potential increase in the monthly subventions?
We usually increase the monthly subvention incrementally. I can't make that commitment now, but where we can, we will.
Also, looking at the SDF, I see where there's a commitment to renovate fields. I see 4 fields, 3 in St. Andrew, 1 in Clarendon. Can you say which in Clarendon and how much has been allocated to that particular field?
Mr. Wilkes? You heard that?
Yes, I heard that. Knox. One in Clarendon is the Knox field, which is actually...
The Knoxville, yes.
At the community college?
Yes.
Oh. And finally, when I looked at the line item within the SDF budget as it relates to contribution to World Cup qualification, I realized that there was a contribution because I think in the year prior to qualification, that's when the support is most needed. But we know that the World Cup qualifications start earlier than that. I realize that there's nothing allocated for that, for this year nor for next year. So I want you to look at that. Also, I know you usually provide
speaking of the male or female team?
Male.
The male?
Yeah. Also, I know you make contributions to the Jamaica Football Federation annually. What is the amount assigned for this year in terms of support for the JFF?
Well, you know, we give 3 million per month to the JFF. Well, so far we will continue the amount. We are looking at the parish associations which need support, and we know that the JFF will be getting substantial support from the international body, right? Huh?
And Adidas, because they have a nice kit deal.
Right. So it's a matter of sitting with the JFF. The JFF, I have asked the JFF to indicate what kind of funding support they are getting from various sources, so we can decide how we disperse the limited funds we have. I'm sure they are interested in seeing football across this island grow and get the support, so we will be working together to ensure that we are able to use what we have to support the parishes and other such entities.
And just one final question, Minister. I see 4 fields, 3 in St. Andrew, 1 in Clarendon. But we know the issue is broader than St. Andrew. And we keep having the same discussions that Kingston and St. Andrew is not Jamaica. And that there are rural parishes that are in need of the support. So I'm wondering what would have informed the decision to assign 3 of the 4 to St. Andrew, within which parish many fields already exist, and we have parishes that don't have no field at all.
I understand what you're saying, but when the requests come in, we, as a policy, we don't ignore them. And so we know we have limited funds, but we would invite, you know, entities, send in your request. And let's see what we can do. You know, we're doing a field in Westmoreland right now. Right? We are. Okay?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I've accepted my punishment and I am ready to ask my few questions. I want to pick up from where the member... No, I think, just 4 very short, easy questions. I want to pick up from where the member left off. You know that the Ministry of Labour and Social Security makes an allocation to members of Parliament every year, and we are able to budget with that and plan with that. I'm wondering if we could not contemplate through you, in keeping with what he's asking about the allocation from SDF and so on, a similar allocation through the CDF to members of Parliament. I want to ask...
That is something I'd love to do, but over the years, with the streamlining, the funds we get have been reduced. So, for example, sports was a beneficiary of funds from the simulcast. That no longer comes to the sports ministry. We were beneficiaries originally of 40% of the lottery money. We are now only 40% of Chase, which has a ceiling. So we are not in a position to allocate an amount to each member of Parliament. However, I am advocating for more funds. And I recognize that it would be important to allocate an amount to each member of Parliament. And I will continue to work towards trying to get that done. But in the meantime, when your requests come in, I think in most instances, if not all, when the request comes, we have always responded in a positive way.
Okay. Thanks very much for the response, Minister. I hope I'll join my voice with yours, and I'm sure the other members of Parliament will as well, because I'm sure it would make a big difference, especially coming out of COVID, coming out of what we have been finding in terms of the importance of sports in dealing with some of the anger and the frustration, and even in terms of as a kind of psychosocial support mechanism for our youngsters. So I wanted to just...
Well, we have been supporting the sporting federations, and they have been active on the ground in communities. So I know, for example, one of the most active and best basketball team you can find and program is in your constituency. And we provide the funding, and they do not hesitate to tell me thanks.
No, they don't, and I'm well aware of that. I still make it. I don't want to leave it, because there are different ways in which we do it. And as you would know as a member of Parliament yourself, that even the programs that are funded through these federations and so on is really also a different catchment, from those programs that a member of Parliament would do, for example.
Yeah. But you know that we do the COVID slowed us down a bit, but we do the summer program, the summer camps, and we always draw on as many constituencies as possible in the corporate area and outside of the corporate area. And so we plan to have that program in the summer up and running again. And so all members of Parliament will be contacted for their participation.
Okay, good to hear that. Minister, in terms of, I have a couple of questions. Let me just find where I've written them. Let me deal with the ones to do with sports. The other one around sports is that I know that there is in the budget seemingly a reduction in the allocation to community sports, 46,010.
In sports, yes, there is a reduction. However, in the past, private sector played an important role in our community sports. We have an excellent grassroots program, and we have a national football competition, community football competition, which participants dub the Get a World Cup. And we also have netball, basketball, and other such activities. The private sector has not been playing as important a role as they have played in the past. So although we have a reduction, the intention is to bring them on board, bring the private sector on board, so that that gap that has been created will be filled by their participation. And so far, the response has been good. And we will be rolling out programs that we will take across the island. We have the track and field program, which involves schools across the island, that has brought good results. Some of our established elite athletes now came out of that program. And so we are encouraging private sector to partner with us more in filling the gap in relation to the reduction we have had.
I'm glad that you said that the response has been good, because you started by saying you're thinking of, and I was wondering if that was just an aspirational notion.
No, we've been talking.
Okay, no problem. The other issue is gender. You were talking earlier about the role of the ministry in terms of gender mainstreaming and so on. And I was wondering what was being done in collaboration with the Ministry of Education as it relates to teachers, colleges, and teacher education, to make sure that they too are able to understand the importance of gender lens in education.
We have active programs in the schools in relation to gender.
I was talking not just the schools themselves, Minister.
But the Ministry of Education is a part of our Gender Advisory Council.
I'm going to go back to why I asked the question. I know that there has been some work done in terms of, for example, the content for some of our books and so on, images and so on. So that I know that is being done. I wanted to know that we were going beyond just making sure that we had the appropriate images in our textbooks to go to the teachers' colleges so that they can identify the issues that present themselves in the classroom, that they can see them from a gendered perspective, and they can respond to them in that way as well. That's kind of where my thinking was going.
Well, in relation to working directly with the Ministry of Education in how we treat with gender, the images, even the curriculum, how we treat with gender, there is a relationship between the Bureau of Gender Affairs and the Ministry of Education in this regard. However, we have specific programs in the schools that deals with it at the student level in terms of the curriculum and how we deal at a policy level. That is to be expanded on. And this is why the Gender Advisory Council is so important, because at that level, we are going to, and you're a member of the council, right? We are going to have to ensure, just like we talk about reparations and getting the Ministry of Education to understand how we treat with civics, how we treat with the matters that impact on what we have been taught over the years and how we think. It's the same way we have to treat with gender. And that's further programs that we develop coming out of the Gender Advisory Council and the work we do. As it is now, the Shortwood Teachers College and other colleges are part of what we call the Gender Ambassadors Program.
Okay.
And those details can be provided.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that about those two. I'm hoping that it will be across the various colleges, because if you don't do that, it means you'll always have to go into the classroom to do it, and that you're not providing a group from the teachers' colleges that would go in and do that work. But the point is taken. Minister, you mentioned the reparations. We are almost at the end of the decade for people of African descent. Mm-hmm. And I certainly don't believe we have done enough. I'm just going to say that. As a country, locally, yes, there are some things going on internationally in which we are participating. But I mean, as a country, primarily of descendants of enslaved people. I think
members, I'm just
more.
going, both minister and member, I'm going to bring it to a little full stop. We allow the other ministries to deal with pages and what's on it, and we are going off. I don't know.
If you allow me, Madam Speaker.
I'm going to ask you to address your question to the page in a concise way, because other ministries are waiting, and the minister to answer in a concise way.
Good. But I'm still going to make the point about the year where we are. 2024 is the end of reparations, and I did not see in the budget, Madam Speaker, which is why I could not do it, anything about that. We are coming to the end. I'm suggesting, Minister, that that is something that we need to look at.
Well, we have had, just quickly to respond, we have had a very active, very active program in relations to reparations, and funds are allocated to treat with reparations, Rastafarian programs, and such other entities. I'm just looking, but it is reflected. It is reflected in the budget, including developing a policy on reparations. So it is there, and funding is provided. In fact, we have.
I did look at it.
Okay. So while I respond to the reparations, I can tell you that
it is 46,007. The page is 46,007.
Yes. And we have 12 million for the Rastafari Coral Gardens Trust Fund, and we also have For reparations, $2.5 million in order to develop the program. We are working on the Rastafarian Secretariat, and we are working on a policy on reparations.
The point I was making, Minister, is that next year is the end of the decade, one full decade. And we are now coming up with a policy. I am hoping, therefore, that you will be part of pushing for the decade to be extended. I mean, this has been done elsewhere with other decades, so that we are able to actually see some more take place.
But in addition to that, we are committed to a monument to commemorate the decade, and that falls under our Jamaica legacy projects.
Okay. Minister, page 46,002. I know that there was a reduction in the entertainment economic linkages, and I wanted to understand exactly what the impact of that was in terms of the reduction that was there.
This is a reduction in...
Yeah. And I raise it just because of the importance of the entertainment industry and what that could mean.
A reduction in what? Grants? No? Well, you know, during COVID, pre-COVID, I think we're more or less
It's actually in the development and promotion of sports and recreation, right? That's the item. One of them at the very least.
For entertainment grant, 15.6 in entertainment.
No, I'm at 46,002 under the function 08.
Recreation, culture.
Yeah.
Recreation, culture, and religion, that one?
What is this again? No, develop, that's one of it. Yeah.
Well, just to respond to you in a general way. There's been a slight reduction in our budget. But we are the creative ministry. And we usually come back in supplementary anyway. Right? We get our programs done, and we find a way to get good results. So whatever you may see in relation to reductions, I can assure you that results will not be diminished. We will find a way, and I always have my good friend, the Minister of Tourism, who we can call on occasions.
And then my final question, a very simple one, 46,003. I noticed that in the item compensation of employees, there was it seems almost flat. I was wondering, based on the whole compensation review and all of that, what explained that? Yes.
We have something there, what for compensation?
But there's actually an increase in that area.
Here? Slight increase. Yeah. Subsistence. The slight increase is basically subsistence.
No, but the compensation of employees is up.
It's just the new rate. The 5% increase, and there would have been some amount of over-projection.
Oh, yeah, because everything here.
So over-projection in 22-23. Right. Okay. Yeah, so there was some over-projection in 22-23. So it's not so much a reduction, right? So we're good. We're good. And we're going to make good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, members. May we put the pages, heads 46,000, pages 1 to 22. Those in favor? Those against, the ayes have it. Members, just...
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, colleagues.
Members, just before we start the last ministry, I am asking, I trust you have read the minutes of yesterday, for someone to move for the confirmation of the minutes. So moved by Member Carencia and seconded by... Right. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Cousins.
If I have shorts, I would fit nicely with
No,
yes, I have shorts.
no. Would you believe?
Yes, I have shorts that would fit nicely.
Would you believe when I went to watch the game? I never knew someone can wear jerseys because I always the president. So I forgot my attire.
So what in France?
Yeah.
Oh. So yes, to answer your question, I do have shorts that would fit. I already answered right. I knew you was watching France, so yes, I've already answered this. I do understand.
That's why I'm showing that part.
Yes, I do understand.
I minister something them.
Minister, how are you? I'm getting ready to make sure I can ask you some
As you see me.
Okay.
I told you when I started, you know. I don't listen to instruction. Told you when I started. Anyway, go on. Go ahead. Give them up. Go ahead.
Oh my gosh.
How are you?
You're going that side. It is away. Where's mine? Where's mine? Where's my folder?
You had a folder here?
Where's my folder?
You left it at your desk?
Where's my ring binder? Where's my ring binder?
Somebody took it up?
I left it right here.
Somebody, must be somebody from...
Check out, what? I put it right here. I went to use the bathroom.
Let me call Nancy and see.
Somebody.
How are you? How are you? Somebody took out Minister thing. His folder. I'm calling. The PS. Oh, you found it. Got it.
You know, somebody took up my ring binder. That's bad, but took my phone too. Boy, all you're going to learn your lesson, them soon catch you. They soon catch you. Yes. I don't think it's going to be very long. It's only one thing everybody come. It's only one thing everybody come here for. Madam Chair, thank you very much.
And your permanent secretary?
I'm going to try my very best to be as expeditious as possible with the cooperation and support of my friends on the other side.
I hope the emphasis is on the word expeditious and not on the words as possible.
No.
Go right ahead, Minister.
Okay, but first, Madam Chair, I'd like to introduce those who are with me, members of the Ministry's team, headed by the Permanent Secretary, Mrs. Risden, the Director of Finance. I call him the Director of Finance, but he has a much bigger and longer name. Mr. Jason Anderson, CTD Dion Jennings, CTD Mrs. Dare Williams. She's a person who operates out of the National Heroes Park Circle, Heroes Circle building. Ms. Gillian Corodas, that is well known to many people. Certainly, if you're in the union business, she certainly is a well-known person. She's Senior Director of Allied Services and Industrial Relations. Mrs. Marks Willis, Project Director in charge of Social Pensions. Then there is Mr. Moore, who is the able assistant, more or less, budget officer, works very closely with Mr. Anderson. Mrs. Tamara Nelson, who is the CTD of the Productivity Center, an area that not as much work as should be done is being done to work not only with the public but private sector, but we have great hopes for the future that it will be intensified. And finally, Mrs. Janetta Smykel, Director of Legal Services, Mr. McIntosh is here? NIF. Mr. McIntosh, the one that is responsible at the operational level for the NIF, a very critical department or agency or organization within the ministry charged with the responsibility of seeing to it that NIS contributions are properly managed and that the fund grows, and it has been doing so quite successfully. Mr. Fagan has just come in. Mr. Fagan, raise your hand here. A very important man. Mr. Fagan is the man in charge of, I'd just paraphrase that by saying the man in charge of infrastructure for the ministry. And we have 14 parish offices and other offices in Kingston. So he is kept busy all day long. Madam Chair, colleagues, the Ministry of Labour and Social Security plays a critical role, as we all know, in all facets of the social and economic well-being of all Jamaicans. As a primary state organization with responsibility for providing labor market services, maintaining a harmonious industrial relations climate, and ensuring the efficient delivery of social protection programs for the vulnerable among us. The ministry's portfolio broadly includes responsibility for programs relating to the protection of job seekers, workers, and employers, management of the national minimum wage, the issuing of work permits for foreigners working in our country, the welfare of children, persons with disabilities, and senior citizens. Those are the global responsibilities of the ministry. We get down more granular as the discussion will proceed. The ministry was approved a budget of 14.219 billion for financial year 22-23. This year, that was increased, and it was increased during that year by 4.804 billion during the supplementary estimates of 22-23 and during the course of that year. The increased allocation was to cover expenditures such as increased compensation for staff, something very badly needed, a one-off special grant payment under the PATH, everybody will recall that, the National Insurance Scheme, social pension, and other public assistance programs, one-off payments. The estimates of expenditures for 23-24 this year stands at 16.977 billion, which represents an increase of 2.758 billion or 16.24% over the original budget allocated for financial year 22-23. So far as we are concerned, the Minister of Finance is moving in the right direction. I'm pleased to report that over last year we have been able to achieve several significant milestones. In the areas of communication, we have improved our communication with members of parliament to increase effectiveness in the delivery of benefits to the most vulnerable in our communities and to ensure that we reach the people who are in greatest need. You will recall when I first sat in this chair, having been appointed by the Prime Minister as Minister of Labour, I gave a commitment. I said that as my stewardship will pay due regard and respect to the role of every member of parliament, and in fact that I was going to take on each member of parliament as an extension of the ministry, working closely with us in collaboration with all agencies that it's under the ministry's control. And I must say that that has, at first it was a sort of unique approach, but I think everyone has come to realize the benefits that have accrued as a result of that partnership. I could see no sense of a person coming into this honorable house and taking an oath to do all in their powers to improve the quality of life of our people and then be excluded from the most essential part of assisting the poor and needy, and that is to be exposed to what we do in the Ministry of Labour and Social Security. And it is on that basis that that fundamental shift in approach took place. In the area of, the ministry continues to, in the digitization of the systems, to increase efficiency in payment of social benefits. Today, more than 70% of the NIS pensioners and nearly 26% of the social pension beneficiaries have their benefits paid directly into their bank accounts. Now, some may frown on that, but you'll be amazed to know how useful it is and it has proven to be. Throughout the community, engagement services, the ministry working with PATH beneficiary families to have their benefits paid directly into their bank accounts has proven very, very useful and well accepted. We expect to commence paying approximately 50% of them through this method within the upcoming financial year. These are the social payments that are made. The national minimum wage, and everyone is focused on that at this time of the year, and I can just advise you that I have been given the report by the Minimum Wage Commission. I know what is being proposed, but it's one of those levels of confidentiality that I suspect, I'm not sure, I've never seen the law, but I suspect that violation of it would send me to jail. It is, at least I view it as confidential as that, but it is in the possession of the Permanent Secretary and myself and those who put it together. And that, and as I indicated, the national, no, there's no such thing. The national minimum wage was increased on April 1, 2022. I'll never forget that day. And it was on that day that I gave a commitment, because it had been lingering out there for a long time prior to that announcement. And I gave a commitment that I would seek to have that national minimum wage increased annually, or reviewed and reported on annually. And it is my expectation that we will be within the time frame that was projected. As I say, the report is presently in our possession. Local and overseas employment opportunities. For the period January to December 2022, the ministry facilitated the placement of 16,447 persons in local and overseas employment opportunities, slightly above the pre-COVID levels. This includes, of course, both Canada and the United States. This takes us back to pre-COVID, when we can reflect on the tremendous impact that the decline in this activity was of such great concern. As this program, overseas employment especially, is so absolutely important to those who get the opportunity to make a life for themselves. We have received a preliminary report, and my opposition counterpart would be happy to hear this. Could I have a glass of water? Could I have a, yeah. We have received a preliminary report from the fact-finding task force, you recall, that I appointed with Cabinet's approval after, what do I say? Let me find the delicate words. After a most upsetting process that preceded that. But so we engaged a fact-finding task force in respect of the Canadian Overseas Employment Program, which points to satisfactory conditions of work. Now, let me make it clear, Madam Chair. Whatever has been said in the past with respect to what jumped out at me or what did not jump out at me, what is undeniable is, as a result of this task force, we have all benefited considerably. Their observations are of quality, and we have the preliminary report. Although it contains a lot of useful information, it is not the final report, because what we started to, we started on a sample, because in order to do an assessment of a country that is 5,000 miles wide and contains some 600 farms with a large 10,000 workers, it is not easy to do a sampling unless the sampling is meaningful. We set out to do 100, and we were recommended to increase that by 100%, so we did 200. And it has taken a little more time than we had anticipated, but we want to get it right, because, as we discussed in the ministry, it is our intention to make this report be at a quality that we can submit it to the ILO as a sample of what this type of program means for Jamaica, and let Jamaica be the sample, the example of how to study and expose our findings in this very critical area of work, where there's so much speculation. So we will be carrying this report internationally and tabling it here first, and then exposing it. So when it is completed, I know as a fact that Jamaica will be in a position to feel very confident that the quality of persons and professionals who engaged in the process has done us proud. So I would like to hand the, it's no point in doing it now, because that's a little previous. But as soon as the report, which will be in, I expect, by now 2 weeks, I'll let you have a copy of it. Okay? So, now, National Policy of Senior Citizens. The revived National Policy for Senior Citizens was officially launched in September 2022. I think everybody was waiting to give me a chance to make an announcement, because I got to the ministry in September 2020, no? And by 22, I announced this big national policy. So I thank those who did all this tremendous amount of work before I got there. The credit is really due to the permanent secretary and the team that made that possible. I try never to take credit for what I'm not fully responsible for. The social pension program, the number of persons enrolled in the social pension program increased by close to 40%. The program now has 12,362 senior registered persons. And you'll recall we were seeking to find those who are 70, over 70, 75, that had no form of pension, no form of revenue, no inflows at all. And we established what we call a cadet group to go in search in every country. Some did better than others. But the part about the program that I like is that although the job has not been completed, and those persons who were employed, we have incorporated them into the ministry to do additional surveys and to assist the ministry to reach out in our outreach program to find persons who might have slipped through the cracks. And we are also evaluating the manner in which we qualify persons to go on the program. Now, if I didn't say that, I couldn't go home, because my wife reported to me that a number of persons in the constituency where she has some familiarity, she is saying that a large number of persons who are not rich and far below the poverty line could do with being included in this program because they have no other means of income. They get a little stipend from a family member who has traveled and stuff like that, but they are desperate, and they should be part of it. That is a discussion that we'll have to have, because some people fall through the cracks simply because they might have a refrigerator, for instance, or they might have been lucky enough to get a television to watch. And as far as I'm concerned, the direction in which we are heading, to have those things does not move you from poverty to prosperity. It's on the road, but you're not there. So therefore, government has an obligation to do everything possible to improve their quality of life. So we will be looking at that. Between March 22 and January 23, the program dispersed $446 million. We moved to the program of advancement through health and education path. That is the real guzzler. That is so many people depend on it. The PATH program now provides assistance to approximately 300,000 persons, and they are paid bi-monthly, no? Bi-monthly. In June 22, we increased the benefit level by an average of 18%. Now, you might say 18% sounds impressive, but as soon as the economy, if it continues to go in the direction it's going, we will see increases taking place. Hopefully, those increases will make the benefit even more meaningful than they are now. Between April 22 and February 23, the program dispersed $9.5 billion in benefits. So you can see right away that's the majority of the money we get. It goes into those benefits. So this is the benefits ministry. I tell the permanent secretary and everybody in the ministry, this ministry does not produce or earn any money. The most we do is get a little fee that is charged for a work permit. But we don't earn money. It's our responsibility, therefore, to ensure that our stewardship of the funds that we get in dispersing them, helping the poor and needy, elevating them from where they are, is what we are about. So we must implement systems that will make that process as efficient as possible. Then there is the rehabilitation program, a very popular program that between April and December 22, 240.3 million was paid out under the rehabilitation program to 1,012 beneficiaries. Now, I must say that I have brought here for your consideration and review. You see, I like to, as I promised, I like to expose what we do. And I take a great sense of pride in seeing that the work that is being done is bringing real results. And I've gone so far, and I'm going to just hand this to you to indicate that I asked them, the next one you will get will be the constituencies, the individual constituents for the rehab program. I don't think I have it here for the rehab. No. Or do I? Do I have it here for the rehab? Right. Well, there you go. All right. So this now by parish, the parish that gets the most money for rehab, that is persons who go into the Kingston office, persons who are recommended by members of parliament and are afforded an opportunity, is first in the number of, but it doesn't look first to me because, quite frankly, I think Manchester outdid it. The amount approved. The amount approved in Kingston was 1,828, but in terms of the money, not wrong. It's just that the people of Manchester have greater needs individually. You like that? I never think you believe that. I don't think even you believe that. But the one that is right out, but the people of Kingston go to Harbour Street and they get small little increments, and so they are a larger number of persons. And then you have St. Catherine, which is fourth in line. St. James is third in line. And St. Mary is fifth in line. There are others below that. Those. All right. Isn't that for the isn't this the overseas employment? Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I should just back up a minute because what I had here, this represents, this represents the overseas employment. Which one? Oh, this one? Yeah, you'll see it, Canada and the United States. It gives you the amount and it gives you by constituency. Now this is something. You have it.
That's what you have in your hand.
That's what you have. The one with the ear. That's, yeah. And you will see there, which, yeah. Well, that is deliberate because, you see, you don't want to just reveal everything before you even present it. There has to be a little bit of suspense. You can't just get it and see it right away. So much so that the opposition spokesman didn't even realize that it was overseas employment. But it is one of the areas of great interest by members of parliament. And this is quite deliberate. So now, in Canada, you can look down there and immediately you will discern from this schedule that the champion constituency in the country, and I want them to know this, so that everybody will try and follow, is Northern Clarendon. Northern Clarendon. But he has... Then Clarendon Northwest. Clarendon Northwest is second. St. Andrew North Central is minimal. Minimal. Trelawny Southern is third. St. Anne Southwest is fourth. And Clarendon North Central is fifth. I just thought I would give you the top 5. So you can readily appreciate that when you look at it at a glance, you will see that in the areas that are, the constituencies that are located in Kingston and St. Andrew, in my own constituency, North Central, you know, regularly persons will say, well, boy, I'm the minister, therefore I'm going to take a whole heap of farm work for himself. we only from Canada have a total of 36. So compare my colleague from Clarendon North of 438 with me, poor little me, at 38. So it goes to show, colleagues, it goes to show that the rural areas are really the areas that we should draw on. Unfortunately, this is last year. Yeah, it's right up to the point now, all of last year. So what your calendar year, over the year, for the year. There's nothing wrong. But what is happening is that I am going to appeal to all members of parliament. And I did this deliberately because, you know, in everything you have to have a little jealousy plugged in, you know. So when people don't see them getting the high percentages, they start to wonder why and examine them carefully. Now, here is the situation. The system, colleagues, the system under which this program runs, I would say, in the area of being foolproof, is at approximately, I would say, conservatively, 95% foolproof. There is no way that anyone can slip through into the program any longer. And the reason why we involve the members of parliament is that when a worker goes abroad and gets into trouble, we know immediately where that worker comes from. A contact with the member of parliament gives you all the facts you need about the worker. If the parents need things immediately, transportation, we have a department that is designed and headed by someone who is very empathetical and will go and visit with the parents and the family and everything else. That's the reason why this partnership is so critical. Must be maintained. And it has given us an opportunity to be satisfied that the persons who are going abroad, that there's somebody here that is the godfather or the person to whom they can rely on their program. So this is something that is very near and dear to me. I implemented it, if I do take paternity for it. I implemented it, and I must say that so far it has worked, and the graft that it has produced is absolutely what we all anticipated would be the case. If you look, for argument's sake, one of the constituencies that have fared extremely well is the Speaker. The Speaker is firing at third, but that is not by accident. And the reason for it is that when the members of parliament take the time and the care to interview the applicants before they come to us, and if they can discern from that interview that they are not likely, because it's common sense, they are not likely to succeed. It's no use sending somebody because they beg your work and disappointing them at the end of it. So if they do a preview, an interview and discussion with the persons, and you can tell right away from the results which constituencies have spent time and have been diligent in ensuring that the quality of people who are sending to represent Jamaica, not just themselves, Jamaica and the image of Jamaica, are of a certain quality. And a lot of the credit for that lies in the hands of, and is due to, the support of the members of parliament. And I want to publicly thank the members of parliament for buying into this program. And as we speak, it's not a lot, but as we speak, you will be, if you look at your email, you will see a new allocation request. Now, because our pool has been going rapidly, and so you will see in your email the request for you to furnish us with applicants. So you see, Madam Chair, I'm very pleased at our outcome. I can assure this Parliament and Jamaica that the Ministry of Labour are in good hands and is doing very well. Doing very well. The only, at my age and stage, cabinet reshuffles are as significant as okay. So, colleagues, thank you very much for your patience, and I hope what I've given you so far as an overview will enable you to ask the questions you wish, and I will try my best to answer along with my team here who will give me the support I need.
Thank you very much, Chairman. And I just want to make one comment. It is no secret that I do sit and do the interviews myself, but I will say as members of Parliament, I have had several supporters who have gone sour on me because they say, when I say you can't read, you can't write, they get offended and they say to me, when you look the vote, ask me if me can read and write. But I want to commend the ministry too, because I had a group of boys, about 11 of them who could not, and I explained to them, I said, look, we're going to run a program. If you learn to read and write, you can go. And through help from the Ministry of Education and private input, we did run classes for the 11 boys. And in fact, the ministry was going to have a graduation and COVID came along, so it didn't, because I wanted to put it on television, because the boys that came and went into the program most of them have since gone on the list recently and are traveling. So that not only have they made it on the overseas travel, but they have improved themselves, because now they can read and write and help themselves better. So I just want to encourage you and to say, because I tell you, it's not easy to tell people who have been beside you all the time, you really can't go. But I think it's not what you say, but how you say it. And if you encourage them and get them in the classes, it will help them and also help the program and enable them to go on. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, Member Jackson is not in the House just now. But yesterday there was a refrain that he kept using that I thought was very useful, which was to remind us that the estimates of expenditure is not just about figures. It is also a planning document, and certainly it reflects the priorities that the government has made. So what it means, therefore, is that this exercise in which we are embarked is not just about counting the dollars, but it is also about making sure that the choices reflected by those dollars actually count, that they are actually meaningful and material to those who depend on us. And in this case, for the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, we are talking about some of the most vulnerable in society. I think it was that the minister says that the ministry plays a critical role in almost every sector. And I agree with you. There was another member who was also concerned about the difference between the macro and the micro. And I believe that it is in this ministry that the micro really hits the road. And so I'm looking forward to the discussion on this budget today. Minister, I heard you about the minimum wage, and I'm hoping that when we get there, that it is as close as we can come to a livable wage, which is really what is making sense these days. I also heard you speak about the team that went to Canada to look at the farm workers and those conditions. And I thought I heard you say that the work conditions are okay.
Satisfactory.
are satisfactory. As I understand it, the farm workers are concerned about their working conditions and their living conditions. And I hope, therefore, that when the report comes, that we will see what it says about both the living conditions and the working conditions. I am also hoping, Minister, that because we have seen some reports by the Canadians themselves about what they have investigated and what they have done, steps they have taken for those who were not, who didn't meet the standards that they had set. And even that report in and of itself is concerning. So I'm hoping that the report takes that into consideration as well. Minister, I'm pleased also to know that the report, as you said, will be tabled. I think it was at the ILO, you said, Minister, internationally. Yeah. And I'm awaiting the copy. And I want to tell you that I also have a couple of individuals who are also lined up to tell their stories as well. And a couple of, you would have heard some of them too, reporters and social media influencers who have their stories that are videotaped as well. And I hope that there's some congruence between the report that you will present and what they are saying. But to the estimates of expenditure. Minister, you started with the original allocation last year. Mm-hmm. As you would imagine, we are looking, you and I, at two different things. Because my point of comparison would, of course, be where we ended and not where we started. So whereas you would note that there has been an increase in the allocation, I will note that there has been a reduction. Mm-hmm. So that's where we start. Yes.
You have to elaborate on that.
I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. I know that there were some one-off payments, and so we expect that there will be some of that. But the reduction that I see when I compare the 19 billion, the 19 billion to the 16, almost 17, somewhere there, is in excess of about 2 billion in terms of the reduction. And so I wanted us to walk through that just to make sure, yes, of where we are and what's happening there, and more importantly, what are the implications for some of the programs that are aimed at really helping the most vulnerable. Because no matter how you slice it, when you look at 2+ billion, almost 3 billion less, at a time when you're also expecting that there would be some increases in terms of compensation and so on, then we also have to wonder how this present allocation will affect, as you say, your aim of delivering effective social protection programs for the vulnerable in an efficient manner.
Well,
so I have a couple of questions.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. We have been asking some general questions. So I want to start with the general questions, and then I come to
that.
Oh, you want to?
So general, in a general way, but bring it down to a little more specific.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. So if you allow me, I mean, yes.
Sure.
You notice I've been very short in that part in comparison. So I'll raise now some general questions. Sure. Minister, the government is also boasting about a new low unemployment rate. But I note in that we have a high rate of persons within the working age that are still outside of the labor force. And I was wondering what budgetary allocations are being made to actively engage those that are currently unemployed, as well as those that are outside of the labor force that are within the working age, to just make sure that we can reap the most from the demographic dividend.
Well, as you notice, the figure that I cited in terms of employment was not only employment overseas, but also domestic. And we have a department in the ministry, and that is where, when you go to the ministry, you see a number of persons sitting and waiting for their turn to be assessed and to make for recommendations to them as to how to proceed and to define the jobs that are available and in relation to their special skills or so forth. And yeah, the electronic labor exchange. You see, what we're trying our best to digitize everything, but because we realize that person wanting advice at a professional level really can't travel from the middle of the island to come to Kingston to sit down and wait and then be told that there's nothing really there to match your skills, and they go back home disappointed. So effort is being made there, and I agree with you entirely that whilst, you know, my grandfather used to say, I heard him say it many times, he said, you don't worry about the pounds. They will take care of themselves. Worry about the pennies. Watch those pennies. And so you're right. If we keep focused on the global situation that looks wonderful and rosy, some of those who are in desperate need will fall below the line and then create difficulties for us. We in the ministry, I particularly as a minister, made reference repeatedly to the fact that these one-off payments, one-off support payments that were made last year, I wanted them continued because they were so useful and opened up the doors of opportunity for so many that it would have been good, and if it could have been continued. For instance, I make specific reference to a one-off payment for back-to-school grants for PATH beneficiaries. You have no idea of the impact that that had, but that was specifically as a result of coming out of COVID and things were in a very, we had to try our best.
What was the total amount of that one-off grant, Minister?
1.6 billion public assistance grants, 189 million one-off NIS pension payments, and 523 million that was spent in those areas. Last year, one-off. Unfortunately, the Minister of Finance said he couldn't afford it this year. But so we will continue because there's such a thing as a supplementary.
No, and the point I was also going to make, Minister.
We will continue to try to get some additional allocations.
Minister, the reduction of 2 billion between what was spent or what is allocated to be spent in 2022-2023 and what is being projected for 23-24.
If you back out those, of course, you'll come down to
No, but they're going further than that. I'm going to the point. So remember we said that the choices that are made reflect the priorities of the government. So I would assume when I looked at the national security budget, for example, and I see the increase in expenditure there, I was thinking that, I mean, an easy allocation, reallocation from national security to Ministry of Labor and Social Security could take care of some of those needs. Because bear in mind what we're talking about, Minister. If you talk about NIS benefits, if you talk about PATH benefits, I don't believe that there is anyone who could say that those benefits do what we expect them to do. Because if you go to the schools and you ask about lunches, there are many schools that have stopped giving PATH lunches because they run out of money they just don't have. There are many schools that you go through, many parents who are unable to actually make that work. It's the same thing with the NIS benefit. When you look at your own analysis of the poverty reduction, if you look at the poverty reduction strategy, it says there very clearly that when you look at your NIS benefits, your PATH benefits, and all of those, that it is simply not sufficient to do what it is expected to do. So if we start there, because the truth of the matter is that we are at a point when we have to decide what we are doing and who we are giving and how we are targeting, because we cannot continue to give what is such a paltry amount that it can't do what it's expected to do. And in this regard, I am responding to some of the comments made in the opening, and I'm doing it in my capacity as the spokesperson on labor and social security for those who might be concerned about that.
Yeah? I appreciate your, nobody's not going to be.
No, not you, Minister. Minister, not you at all. Not you at all.
Nobody.
Not you at all. So I raise it because it's a real concern.
Of course.
And then I'm going to go back now, Minister, through, because remember, coming out of COVID, you would have seen also the poverty figures. Yeah, and you would have seen the malnutrition and all the rest of it. So this is a place where many are looking for support. And if it can't be found here, then where? Then where?
One thing I want to point out to you, though, is that when we speak, for instance, of school feeding, and that's one that's very emotive. I mean, we die a million times when we see children that don't have adequate supplies. It really, and I'm not obfuscating, I'm not apologizing, it is just what it is. That's really not we are like a pass-through, we are a facilitator. It's not in our budget. It's really the budget that flows to the Ministry of Education. So
it's a pass. I understand it as a pass-through. I was looking more, Minister, at the role of the Ministry of Labor and Social Security.
Yes. No. What we are we constantly bring to bear our influence in the forum where discussions of this kind take place, and we constantly give support for affordable increases. But I want to emphasize the term affordable, because the funds that are there are not infinite, they're finite, and there's a limit. So we can do these things as soon as we are in a position as an economy to be able to afford it. It would be, what would be a sad state is if we become so well off in terms of our public earnings, the revenue, national revenue is such, and then these immediate and needy assistance to the poor and needy remains in a confined way. So you have the support in the Minister of Labour in the forum where discussions of this kind are held, but of course, and we'll continue to do that in support of the Minister of Education and to the benefit of our children who need the help. So,
Minister, I'd use the allocation for school feeding as an example, but you would know that from the poverty reduction strategy, you have said, meaning coming out of the ministry, that the targeting of the program needs to be looked at so that you target those who really need. What would be, as you say, an affordable amount needs to be looked at. So it is more than just that. I'm just saying, generally speaking, we have to look at what it is able to do. Minister, I'm not sure if in the budget, I could probably come to the pages, but a number of individuals are concerned. I want to talk on behalf of the pensioners today. They are concerned, and the NIS pensioners as well as path beneficiaries. Minister, they are concerned that with when they go to collect, right, for those who still go to collect, that the conditions are less than desirable. These long lines in the sun, sometimes it is the security guard who they actually interact with as the first person. They are not properly trained in terms of customer care, and they don't believe, and I want to agree with them, having seen some of them, that they are treated with the dignity and the respect that they should be afforded. I'm not sure if you're making any moves to ensure that that is remedied. I see some allocations for digitization, so I am expecting that there's going to be some improvement.
Yeah, digitization will enable us to take the load off of those particular centers. But it's undeniable, and I would be a hypocrite if I sat here and told you that those reports that you are getting, I get them too. I mean, directly, live and direct, I get those reports. And I get situations of persons who are able, well, I'm not going to go into details, but I get those reports. And we're looking into the way we can make those parlors more efficient to begin with, and have an alternative so that we take the load off of those that physical environment. It's not a pleasant experience to go, and it's a demeaning experience.
Very much so, very much so.
You know, this is one of the things that has really, that's what drove me into politics in the first place. It is to look into the eye of someone who desperately needs something and is forced to go through a process that is demeaning, you know, to make them lesser people. It's very disturbing. So everything that can be done simply has to be done.
Minister, every month we see these notices come out about collection for past beneficiaries. Am I to understand with the allocation around and what you're doing in digitization that will be a thing of the past? Because every single month I see on social media, in my WhatsApp group, in my email, in everything, somebody saying, my name is so-and-so, when is my date again to collect? I just believe that we must be able to find a system. It's part of the respect and it's part of the dignity so that people can actually plan their lives from month to month.
I would love to suggest to you and to solicit your support, I mean, you in representing the opposition, in our effort to move away from this direct receipt of money at these facilities, or move away from not utilizing the digital accounting that is required. Everybody should have a bank account. If there's anything that a member of parliament can do that will be very productive, is to encourage their constituents to open, no matter how humble, a bank account. What it does,
I will do that once the bill that Fitz-Jackson has been promoting about banking so that those rapacious fees will not be levied on the back of those poor people who can barely afford the little money you're putting in there, then you have my support. You're not getting it before that.
Let's not punish.
No, you are in a place in government to be able to make sure that there can be these accounts where the fees are lower for individuals who are in this category. Come on now.
Well, I'm told that the fees are minimal to zero in from those special accounts. That's a discussion that we have.
I am not sure. I did some accounts when we were doing the HEART program that were supposed to be those accounts, and it didn't quite work out that way. It didn't quite work out that way. So it is something that we'll have to look at.
Why don't in our effort collectively to improve the lot of those needy people, why don't you join us in a strategy?
No, I'm willing and ready. But as I say, there are some prerequisites.
And to see what systems can be implemented so that in a mechanized way, these people don't have to go and wait and get hungry
we are ready, and we are willing. You just know what we will and we won't do.
When we move from here, we move into a process of collaboration on important matters.
Minister, yes, I'm here. I'm here. We are here. Because it's on behalf of the people and we want to do that. Good. Minister, I forgot to say earlier, and let me say that now before I get into some other things and forget. You have a number of individuals working at the Ministry of Labour and Social Security who have been in the communities and doing some work, and I really want, yes, not just the social workers, I haven't really encountered them, but in terms of your staff. I've seen those too, yes. But the members of staff with the programs going into the community that I think are doing a phenomenal job, and I want to big them up with that. I am hoping that they can get the kind of resources that will allow them to actually have a meaningful impact in the community. But they have been very cooperative. But Minister, late last year, I wrote a letter to you, the Minister of National Security, and the Minister of Finance. And this, of course, you know where I'm going. This has to do with the security officers. And I did receive a response from the Minister of National Security saying that it was your responsibility and not his. I received a letter also from the Minister of Finance saying it was your responsibility and not his. To date, I have not received a response from you. I have not taken it personally because I also heard the security guards complaining that you have also ignored them as well. Now, bear in mind, I've written you several letters. I mentioned that one that you have not responded to because you have responded to, I think, 2 of the others. This is around 1 meeting with the security guards and 2 around the call for the Joint Industrial Council for the industrial security industry. I believe it is really very important, and along with that, it touches some other things. It is about contract workers and how we protect them. It is about those individuals who are working under similar circumstances as the security guards and how we make sure that they can actually access workers' rights that have been hard fought and won by the union movement in Jamaica. And the last time we met, I think under similar circumstances, I did suggest to you, Minister, that it would be good to actually meet with the security guards. You haven't paid them much mind until now, but I am going to ask of you, meet with them.
Do they have
I think that their voices are not being heard, and I believe that it is important for the line minister. The Minister of Finance came and said what the government was going to do. But it is important for the line minister to meet with them, to make sure that they can feel as if their voices are heard and that they're being listened to. I think it's important. So I want to call, to ask you to do that.
Well, anybody who knows the way I operate knows that there's no such thing as somebody in need at any level that requires a meeting with me that doesn't get it. What I have to be cautious about is that in an environment of obvious disquiet, where everyone is looking for their own interests, trying to promote their own interests, try to grow a union or try to grow a group that will represent everybody and liberate them, right? I have to be careful that I do not squander the time that can be spent more constructively. And I must tell you what I mean by that. What I mean by that is I don't know at the moment as I speak of a specific established organized group called the Security Guards Union or Security Guards organization. I don't know of such a group. What I do know of, and what we have spent a lot of time dealing with, is to have the establishment of a joint industrial council. And in this regard, you know, through the Labor Advisory Council, I've established a core committee that is headed by the president of the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions. Now, this is an established structure, headed by someone of great integrity, someone who I personally have a lot of respect for. The NWU, BITU, Jamaica Employers Federation, the Jamaica Association for Private Security. I have met with those people and had continuous discussion with them, regularly. I have, so far, I must say, one of the things that I pride myself in is that I've forged a relationship with the trade union movement of this country that enables me to make calls at sometimes Sundays at night, all hours of the day and night, anything. Whenever there is a trade union issue, I feel absolutely free to call on any of these organization heads, both private sector and unions, for advice, for direction, for support, for guidance. And I made it clear when I came to the ministry, I said, other than being an executive for a company in Jamaica and sitting at a table in the old days, I'm not a trade union man.
Minister, I'm pained and disappointed with your response.
I've learned the craft, I believe, and I learn it easily because I empathize with the process and I support the process. So for anyone to suggest that they have been trying to get hold of me, I saw you communicated with me and you have a private member's motion.
I do as well.
Yeah, but
which I have no, Minister, I'm going to tell you. I have seen how this parliament has dealt with private members' motions. I have no confidence that it will come to the light of day unless the timing suits the government. No, I'm going to tell you straight up.
You're wrong.
Straight up.
You're wrong.
Straight up. I've placed one there and I have no confidence. But I'm going to tell you why I am concerned, Minister, and why I'm pained by your response. The first thing is to remember that the industrial security industry, as we speak, does not have in the same way organized unions. And we know the history of it. The history of it is that the fact that they could come out and speak, I believe, is a testament to their courage. Because to open their mouth about any condition is to imperil their working status.
Can you help me? Who is the they?
I'm not going to call the names here. I can tell you.
What's the organization?
No, some of them have come and they have protested. They have been there. A group has written to you. I don't remember their name. A group has. No, Minister, let me tell you.
Please. I have exposed in no uncertain, possibly in an unparalleled way, I have exposed the operations that guide us. I'm asking you simply to expose the names of the organization you are referring to.
Minister, you can't determine how I answer your question. You have asked the question, I'm going to answer it, but you cannot determine. You cannot, and I'm going to tell you why I say that. Allow me.
It's propaganda.
It's not.
It's Minister, propaganda.
No, Minister, I'm going to tell you, honestly.
There's no question, and I will not yield that one.
No, Minister, I'm going to ask you to give me the same privilege that I allowed you, and I listened. I'm going to ask you to listen as well. And let me tell you why I'm pained, why I'm disappointed, and let me tell you what I'm talking about in terms of who should be at the table. So the group that you have outlined are a number of unions. That's fine. I have no difficulty with that.
And
they understand.
And you're very familiar.
Very familiar with them. And they are individuals that I have the greatest of respect for. At the same time, the only voice there that truly represents the industrial security industry are from the companies themselves, because they do not represent the workers.
That is abject.
Minister,
that's not true.
I am not asking about it.
That is not true.
I have very, very, very close ties with the industry.
How does a company survive? How does a company survive without a harmonious relationship with your employees? How does a company survive? By the way, the Ministry of Labour...
Minister, Madam Speaker, I have been attempting to respond to the Minister, and I'm not being allowed.
Go ahead.
I have no intention of speaking over the Minister.
Go ahead.
Because I have too much respect for you.
But you must speak straightforward and
I am being straightforward.
You can't be misleading.
I am not misleading. I am not misleading because I know you or those who report to you listen to the news as much as I do. I know that the rest of Jamaica will know what I'm talking about.
You abuse me on a
I have
platform.
never abused you. I have never abused you.
And you took it down.
Took down what?
What you said at the meeting.
After
the Canadian situation.
No, Minister.
So don't think I have forgotten it.
No, Minister, I have said nothing that is wrong, and I have taken back nothing I have said in terms of the Canadian program. I have asked for a couple of things.
Ask your leader with whom I spoke.
I have asked one for you to heed the requests that have been made to you to meet with individuals who
I will meet with you, but I'm not going to meet with somebody who has no foundation.
There are at least 2 groups that currently exist. There are new groups.
Name one.
One of them with at least 200 members and another one.
They exist.
I think I understand what the member is saying, but if you are asking the minister to do something, at least guide him and say Group A. I understand what you're saying, but it is difficult in here.
No, Madam Speaker, I'll name one.
Please.
Mr. Teddy Lee Gray, who you should know very well, and I name him for more than one reason, yes, as an individual, has been at pains. He has been part of the leading demonstrations and protests. He has been part of pulling together a number of workers. He's not the only one. He's not the only one, but I know why I've named him, right? That's one. I've also placed on the table, though, thank you, I've also placed on the table the re-establishment of the Joint Industrial Council for the industry.
You put on the table that?
I put on it in the question that I asked.
I just advise you that.
Minister, the letter that I wrote to the two ministers who responded to me and the one that you did not was to ask for that. And
You called
for
that after you heard we were doing it?
No, absolutely not. This has been a long time ago. Long before it was because I did not hear why I brought the motion to Parliament. I don't have any operatives working with you to come and tell me what you're doing. I did it because the unions have been calling for it. Mr. Vincent Morrison has been consistent in calling for it, not just this year, not just last year, but for years. I heard him make the call and I joined the call and others did. And what I'm asking, Minister, is where are you with that? And is that reflected in the budget that you have?
Let me clarify something for you. Right? The Ministry of Labour gets involved in issues when there's a dispute. When a dispute arrives at the ministry, the Ministry of Labour has always held the view that every employee as a security guard is an employee in the strictest sense of the word, not an independent worker. He's an employee. We have always maintained that stance. And until a matter is reached the level of an abuse or it becomes necessary to resolve it at the ministry, we are fully equipped and ready and willing to do that. But I don't go out hunting down people who want a voice on a matter that is already being managed by the largest and most powerful set of union leaders in the country. So if you're promoting somebody who wants to come into that circuit, tell them to take a different route.
Minister, for you to suggest that the ministry sees each security guard as a worker, and therefore...
That's not a speculation, that's a fact.
But it's not, because it has taken a ruling by Justice Butts. No.
You don't know what you're talking about.
I know that is NHT. I know. The point I'm making is that could not be true when it had to take a court ruling for us to get to a point where some security companies are being asked now to treat them as workers because they had not been treating them before. They have not been treating them before. We are calling for that. It was the Minister of Finance who stood in this house and who said that the government is meeting with those providers of security services to ask them to make sure that these provisions are adhered to. I then asked if people working with government are going to be afforded that. What about those in private business? So don't say that. It is one of the areas that all of us have ignored for years, and we have allowed for the exploitation of Jamaican workers.
Oh, come off of the platform.
Members, Minister,
we went along
just a
well.
moment.
Come off the foolish little cheap platform.
Minister, member, I am going to ask us to bring this one to a close. There is a private member's motion on the order paper. That is it, and I'm not going to allow for the committee examining what the estimates for this year to be treated in this fashion. So, having said that, I am going to ask the member to halt on that and continue with her questions in relation.
But, Madam Chair, if I might enlighten this
Beg your pardon?
This honourable committee. The person that she has referred to, the gentleman whose name she called, Teddy Ligre, has never, ever requested a meeting at the Ministry of Labour. Never.
I'm not hearing you.
She wants me to meet with him on the side of the road. It's nonsense. And you know that, Tony, you don't support nonsense.
I think that I'm going to hold this discussion strictly to the questions of it, because when you call the name of members in here, they cannot respond in any way. So, my ruling here now is that we stick to what is in front of us, ask the minister the questions relating to the budget. And I also know that it's a planning, I've heard that, and we're looking at how, but we are now going to look at the budget. I'm not going to allow anybody to bring the name that way. I thought you were doing a group, I hear a name, we can't, the person cannot. Let us ask the minister the questions relating to the budget, page and number.
Yeah, but before we leave that, Madam Chair, if he wants representation...
Mr. Sam, I'm going to ask you, just leave
No, but it's an important point, if I do with respect. It is important. Nobody that wishes to establish themselves as a group, an organized group, representing a group of workers, they must do it properly. Anybody can write the minister and say, I want to meet with you. Minister's responsibility is to act responsibly. And you can't just pick up anybody who wants to write you and say, I want to come see you.
You are correct, Minister. So now, let us move to the pages, what we have in the budget and the questions.
Madam Speaker, regardless of the comment made by the member, which I will ignore, because I know who has sent me here, the member who said that him don't want to hear nothing more.
I'm not hearing
that
you.
Member.
Address your questions to me as the chairman, and let us have an orderly session.
Madam Speaker.
You know, member.
I'm not continuing the conversation, Madam Speaker. Good. I have always respected your ruling, and when I think you're wrong, I'll say it whether I agree or disagree. But I respect your authority that is there. I just wanted to say to you, that was the reason why I had hesitated and did not want to call a name, because I thought it would have descended thus. I was prevailed upon, and against my better judgment I did, and there you go. Madam Chair, I'm going to leave that there, because we will have more time later on during the year to have those conversations. A question I wanted to ask, now that the public sector workers are enjoying the 60 days maternity leave with pay, can the minister say what step the ministry is taking to ensure that all workers are able to enjoy those benefits?
That would require in-depth discussion and understanding and involve the employers. That is a matter that revolves around the decision of each company. And as long as they are not abusing the regulations governing.
May I guide you, Mr. Minister?
Sorry, you're not doing anything here. That's fine. I will move on.
Minister, may I just guide you? The question is asking you about how you will operate in the ministry. This session is about money and the spending. Please.
Okay, Madam Chair, on 40,003. Yes, just to ask the minister, I suspect some of it is what you had referred to earlier, but I wanted you to just kind of talk a little bit about what is the impact that we should expect to see from the labor market reform support that's there, with an increase in the budget there.
Minister, we're hiring some consultants. We're hiring a consultant to review the LRIDA.
The what?
LRIDA. We're hiring a consultant to review the Labor Relation and Industrial Disputes Act, to review the code.
I'm advised that under the LRIDA, we are engaging a consultant to review the existing provisions.
Okay. So the next question, Minister, is really also now around the computerization, the additional support for the computerization of the processing and delivery of services for PATH. What kind of improvement can we expect to see from the additional 13 million that's being spent?
Well, I can tell you right off the bat, because it's something that is very near and dear to me. When I got to the ministry, when I came here on assuming office, there was a system in place where a person requesting assistance through one of our offices, this is rehab program, but assistance nonetheless, they would go in and everything was written, everything, in what they call a choir book. And a number of choir books were stored, but the choir book and all the files were sent to Kingston, and then it was reviewed there and then sent back. We implemented a system, and you might be interested in this. We implemented a system that if somebody walks in to any office in the country and makes a request at the counter, it is entered almost the same time as they make the request. It is then investigated, and a report submitted by the social worker, and that goes before a small panel within the office of the parish, and a decision taken to make a recommendation. So if somebody wants $60,000 to assist them in something like a business that got burnt out or any other form of assistance, funeral grant, whatever the situation is examined against the background of a visit by the social worker, and that is forwarded to Kingston. Now, the moment that request hits the computer in the office, all offices from Kingston right back sees that. It is seen as entered. So it's not a question of having to transport everything. You see it, you request immediately. And as soon as it is reviewed in Kingston and approved, same process, everybody sees that. So it's an open, efficient, fast, real-time process that has been introduced, which never existed before. Never existed in the history of the ministry before. Now we can not only track what is requested, but in the unlikely event, I hope, that there's no attempt to bypass the system, it is immediately detected. And you don't have to go in a room and try to decipher what a person's handwriting said.
Just for a little clarity on that, Minister. So I am understanding that for the for current activities, that's what will be computerized.
That's what
in other words, no man, let me ask a question, man, so I can give me the clarity I desire. Because I'm also asking, Minister, that I would imagine that it will take some time to do the backlog, right? So you're starting with your present activities. So that's kind of where I'm going, because you would know that coming through COVID and in the last couple of years, that there are a number of persons who complain about not having their case dealt with by the ministry. So I wanted to find out whether or not this would also include some kind of retroactive input as well, and how far that's going to go. I know I couldn't expect that all of it would be done at the same time, but that's kind of what I was asking.
Yeah, we started, we had a full year last year, and this year so far. So we can go back, in fact, the year before last. So we can go back and see exactly, what the progress has been.
No, man, are you expected, and what is the planning for that, to go back to previous years?
Well, we haven't defined
to put
the
them
time
on
frame.
the system?
We haven't, to be more specific, we have not defined, like say, we're going back 5 years, or 4 years, or what have you. All the items, the requests that are before us are being diligently reviewed, and that will be brought onto the system, because we want to be assured that everything that we can do to people who might have dropped off the list, as it were, right? So certainly for the last year and a half, that's all in now. And so we'll go behind that as soon, and usually the people come and bring it to our attention, like, me apply last year, I'm in a year, nothing, well, go on. So we will then move into that and do what we can, but bring it on the system. So everything is computerized in that regard.
Okay, Minister, I'm just hoping that it isn't just on left to people coming in to say, boy, look at my case, but that, and I don't need it now, but that you will eventually work out a plan as to how you deal with all of those that are outstanding, that they become computerized so that they can be properly accessed. Minister, on 40,007, when I look at this is to deal with now industrial safety, promotion and supervision. I see a very minimal increase in the budget there. And I was wondering, Minister, if you had any idea as to, in the last maybe year, 2 years, 3 years, or whatever, how many accidents or how many deaths we have actually had from
in my time too.
Industrial safety, around industrial safety issues, and whether or not this would include a provision that will help to make the workplace any safer.
Well, that's the kind of comment I like to hear, because you're on the right path. Because we unfortunately lost one of our key people who died. And we are trying to recruit, and we're trying to expand the program to the point where nobody at the workplace is endangered sufficient to cause death. That's the most extreme case. This is why we're pressing very hard, and the head of the unit is here, pressing very hard to bring to the House the OSH bill.
Well, you would know that would be the next question.
Well,
Minister.
yeah, I'm trying to anticipate.
you would know that the next question would be, how much longer do we have to wait before the OSH bill comes to Parliament for it to be passed?
God knows,
to ensure that the place is really safe.
You're not any more anxious than I am. Mrs. Smack, wait. She's here, yes. She will tell you that she's one of my most regular refers. I refer to her regularly about the progress. It is not in our ministry now. It's OPC has it. Chief Parliamentary and Office of the Parliamentary Council has it. And we are waiting their...
Sounds like you're having a private conversation. While you do that, we are anxious to complete.
That's when the subject matter is personal.
Please, yes. So if we could just get through the questions and complete so that we'll allow you to have that conversation.
Minister, I figured that you didn't give me a number because you didn't have it. What we have been doing since yesterday is to ask the minister when you are able to put together the data that I've asked, which is around the deaths and major injuries from the last 3 years. Yes, that you could make it available. I just want to make sure that we're kind of following that and looking at that. Minister, I looked at, this is around Direction Administration for Labor Standards and Enforcement on 40,008. I see a reduced amount for compensation, and I was wondering, in the face of all that needs to be done, what were the implications of that? In terms of compensation of employees?
Well, I'm advised that this is because we have some vacant posts. So the moment it is filled, we will underwrite the cost.
No, okay. All right, so we'll expect that.
It's not a question of money, but rather the posts, the people.
The people, okay. No problem. Minister, I also noticed on 40,010 where it speaks about, I'm looking particularly on the activity that supports local employment section, which performs the services of employment exchange in the regions of Montego Bay, Mandeville, St. Anne, and Kingston, and the private employment agencies unit that supplies the requisite suitable applicants and inspects agencies and so on, that there is, I think I think it might be the same thing here reflected, that this is where the vacant post, around the vacant post
Yes,
as well?
Yes.
Okay. Then, Minister, on page 40,013, this is around now persons, support the persons with disability and what is happening there. And again, I see that the allocation is, what, about 20 million, is less than it was last time around. And I was just wanting to find out from you, what would be the cause of that and what would be the implications?
Well, last year, we gave a 40 million grant, and it was a one-off payment.
Okay.
And the Minister of Finance indicated that, he couldn't support that this year. But don't give up on it, because what we are trying to do is to, as things develop, we are expecting the economy to develop. We will go back to him to see if space is available for some of these one-off payments that we didn't get this year.
Because you and I would agree, Minister, that based on where we are and in terms of what is happening to those who are most vulnerable, that they are going to need something that is similar, because in terms, just to keep up with cost of living and so on. Right. On page, the early stimulation for the disabled from 0 to 4 as well. Minister, I noticed that compensation there is kind of flat. And I was wondering, I know that they have been complaining about the services that they have been getting and persons who are working with them. And I was wondering,
you sure
with
it is,
keeping...
You sure it's flat? It has increased,
No, ma'am. What I'm looking at, it is, quite frankly, not. It is, what, 3...
No, 150.
It is actually a little less.
No.
No,
It's more.
No, okay. The compensation itself...
Of employees.
Yes, of employees is actually up.
Yeah.
So with that, you are correct.
Yeah.
I was looking at the entirety of it, so let me find for the entirety of it as well, to say that although the compensation is up, the allocation there in particular, as it relates to awards and social assistance grants and contribution, again, is also nil this year.
Oh, there was a one-off payment of 100.
I suspected you were going to say that, which is why I was raising the point that members there for children in the early stimulation in that sector have been complaining about the lack of resources and support that they get. And therefore, although that was a one-off payment last year, I am suspecting that having 0 this year could not be workable.
I will undertake to review this, and I'll advise you, because I don't think the answer for it is readily available right now.
Okay.
But it is a point to be noted for sure for attention.
Okay.
Okay. I'm very sensitive to the needs of the disabled.
Okay.
Absolutely, and so anything at all.
I don't want the speaker to think that is. I think just 2 quick questions. One is around the social pension. Minister, I know that again there were some one-off payments, but we're talking about a 50% reduction here now in the support in social assistance for the elderly and the social pension program. So for me, that must make a big difference to what we are going to be able as a government to do for the elderly and the social pension this year. And I wanted to ask you about that.
Well, it's a question of unachieved objectives. We have a provision for 20,000, and at the moment we are only 12,000. So this is in response to what we actually have to support. The moment that increases, then this will move.
Okay, so you're expecting that this will move to reflect the need as you...
As we increase, yes.
As you onboard them?
Yes.
Okay. Now, this is page. I have been going through pages. You don't see me flipping the book? One last one, if there's any. Again, it's the same thing. I'm going to ask for the social assistance for PATH. Minister. And this is the activity that supports the bi-monthly payments of cash grants to PATH beneficiaries. And when we look at the breakout, I think that there is probably only one single benefit area where there was not a reduction in terms of the allocation for this year in comparison to last year. Again, I want to say that just based on where we are and what we are finding amongst this vulnerable population, that this idea of reduction is really, I believe, going to be a real problem there. I understand the fact that in terms of the one-off payments, that those may not be readily available, but I do believe that where you started in 2022, 2023 could not be sufficient, and therefore we are going to require more.
Member, I'm advised that, in looking through the budget, you'll see a number of these reductions, but we have not, other than the one-off payments, we haven't reduced anything. In some cases, we have amalgamated two particular functions, steps to work and social intervention.
Right, I saw that steps to work was missing.
Yeah, had a special meaning to every member of parliament.
No, I'm seeing that. So, which is why I keep saying that having taken out the one-off payments, I'm saying that I would have expected to see some improvement in the numbers beyond that because of where we are. And I go back to say the choices we make, if we had moved a little from even, let's say, national security to this ministry, that we would be able to deal a little better with our vulnerable population.
Well, we continue to make representation.
And then just finally, Madam Speaker, finally, just one last, I'd seek your indulgence. And it relates to...
I hope it's concise, and I ask the Minister to be concise and precise too.
Yes. Minister, you did congratulate the Speaker, the Chairman, in terms of what she has been doing as it relates to the overseas employment program and so on. And you did indicate that when you take that kind of care, that the number of individuals on the program is often reflected in the numbers. And I must say, I want to congratulate her myself and add my few words there. But I would also want to say, Minister, since 2017, I have made every single effort that is humanly possible in terms of recruitment. I've gotten persons who are in the program, who work in the program, who understand the program to come in and do that. I am there myself. I do the reading test. I do all of that, the bleaching, everything. I go through that. And I know that I have been looking, but I do believe that the lowest number that is there in terms of allocation is from Southwest, St. Andrews Southwest, the one that I happen to represent. And I want to say it is not for a lack, and it's not for a lack of effort whatsoever. And I'm going to have a conversation with you. I don't speak about what I do not know, about what some of those other issues could be. about what some of those issues could be. But I'm hoping, Minister, to see shortly a reflection of the efforts of the team from Southwest St. Andrew, the preparation of applicants on these programs.
Well,
thank you.
Thank you
very much. Member Morrison wants one brief intervention.
30 seconds.
And the papers.
30 seconds. 30 seconds.
Above cool again.
Minister, I want to commend the ministry for the level of communication with MPs. And certainly, well, it is superb. The way in which information flows back and forth, I do appreciate it. Quite recently, I made a submission, 25 persons for the overseas work program, but only 5 of my people got through. But notwithstanding that, is the fact that communication was made and I was told why 20 did not get through. Some of them lacked they had the qualification, but they lacked the experience. So what I've instructed my office to do, and I'm certain other members of parliament are doing it, when our constituents probably, or those persons who are interested, take in the resume, we could assist them in helping to make the resume more robust, because sometimes they do have the information, but they haven't put it down there. So I want to thank the ministry for that. For my own parish office, there are times when a constituent may call and say, MP, we don't get through with this with part, and them telling me pure foolishness down there. When I call and investigate it, sometimes they don't even have the accurate information. Sometimes they misrepresent. And I, again, thank the ministry for having the patience. Now, the farm work card is gold in my seat. It is the most frequent request that I have received. Now, we struggle with connectivity issues in northeastern St. Catherine. So sometimes the ministry will be making calls. You need to go in tomorrow to do your interview. And my constituents miss the call. Now, this must be understood from the background of what the opportunity means. What you're familiar with northeastern St. Catherine. What a card means is liberation for a family. Right. So a missed call is something that has to be treated seriously. It's like a missed opportunity. And I want to thank the Ministry of Labour for understanding that dynamic and reaching out to me as Member of Parliament to say, MP, we have been trying to reach these 3 persons for the last week or so. Could you get in touch with them? Giving us the opportunity to pull those people out. Many times we come and we complain, and because we want you to do better, we want to get through, because then they turn down on us. But when good things are happening, we must say so. So that arm of the ministry that deals with communication, congratulations to you, and do everything to maintain it or to make it robust. My only concern is that I have constituents, and many MPs are saying the same thing. Those who may have traveled from 2019 or so, they haven't received a call. I don't know who is saying to them, go to your MP and tell your MP to write a letter to have them reinstated. I spoke to you this morning, Minister, and you advised us that they should go to customer service and log their intention and willingness to travel. So I just want to understand, and on behalf of my colleagues, very clearly, should an MP, this request that your MP can write a letter for you to be reinstated. It strikes me as dubious, because we would not have known why that constituent was not invited to the program. So I just want to, while I'm seeking clarity, I commend you for leading a great program. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Members, the pages are Head 40,000, pages 1 to 22. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, PS. Thank you, members of the team. Thank you, all members who have been here.
I want on behalf of the entire ministry, I want to thank them all for the tremendous work that they are doing.
Yes.
You hear, Madam Chair? Madam Chair.
Yes.
They are the ones who deserve all the praise, you know.
And we all thank them very much because, yes, okay. We do.
All right.
We do. We thank them very much. They have been a very responsive.
Yeah. And don't worry about my.
No, we are not worried about her. We are used to her.
Opposition member, you know.
No, we are used to her. She goes in and out of the naughty corner, but we know our heart is in the right place.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Members, will you please just, we're now about to close. It's 2:17. No, but this is the minutes for today. When is this? Madam Clerk, come, we want to finish, man. Minister of Finance, I'm going to invite you to go ahead. Not waiting.
Madam Chair,
need to go.
if we're still, the amendments to the estimates of expenditure for 2023-2024 for the financial year ending March 31st, 2024, and the Jamaica Public Body estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year ending March 2024 is before us. I put the amendments.
Members, the minister has put the amendments. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Members of the House, I put the estimates of expenditure for the years 2023-2024 for the financial year ending March 31st, 2024, and the Jamaica Public Body's estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year ending March 2024 as they have been amended. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Members, the report on the estimates of expenditure 2023-2024 for the financial year ending March 31st, 2024, the Jamaica Public Body's estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year ending March 2024, the Government of Jamaica Fiscal Policy Paper for the financial year 2023-2024, the Medium-Term Debt Management Strategy for the financial year 2023-2024 to the financial year 2026-2027, the Revenue Estimates 2023-2024 for the financial year ending March 31st, 2024, the Tax Expenditure Statement 2023, and the Public Sector Consolidated Estimates of Expenditure for the financial year ending March 31st, 2024 is now before me. Is it the wish of members of the committee here that I sign this report? Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it, and so I'm signing the report as agreed. the report has been signed as agreed by all of us. And now this Standing Finance Committee stands adjourned.